Hello, good morning, and welcome to Baiju's Exam Prep. In the last class on Monday, we initiated a discussion on union legislature, which means parliament at the center to make laws for the entire country. And we discussed that parliament consists of president, Rajya Sabha, which is Council of States, also known as upper house of the Indian Parliament. Second, we have Lok Sabha, which is House of People or lower house of the Indian Parliament. Then we discuss what are the various roles and functions performed by the Parliament. It has an ordinary law-making power. It also has a constituent power in the sense that it has the power to amend the constitution. Yes, subject to basic structure. It is also an institution which controls the executive, which supplies the executive. It is also the authentic source of information. It is also the custodian of public purse, public revenue. And there are multiple roles and functions performed by the parliament. Then we looked at Rajya Sabha. What is Rajya Sabha? What is the composition of Rajya Sabha? How the members are elected? What are the qualifications? What are the special powers available with Rajya Sabha? Is Rajya Sabha inferior to Lok Sabha or not? That is something that we discussed. One thing which I was realizing later, one aspect that I did not touch upon in the significance of Rajya Sabha, why was such a house, or why did we pursue bicameral legislature? Why was such a house created in the first place? If we already have Lok Sabha, what is the need for Rajya Sabha? Now, please understand one thing. We call Rajya Sabha also as the House of Elders. Why House of Elders? What is the role of an elder in the family? To counsel the young, when they are going wrong, to advise them, or to put a lid on some of the mistakes that this young generation would have committed. Basically, to ensure that this young generation do not further commit any mistakes. That's the job of an elder in a family. Same is the job of elders in Rajya Sabha. What is the qualification required for someone to contest election to Rajya Sabha? You should be the citizen, you should be 30 years of age. For Lok Sabha, you should be the citizen and 25 years of age. So relatively, you are on a higher side of age, which basically means maybe you will have more maturity as against the members of Lok Sabha. But how? We say Lok Sabha, it is the popular chamber or popular house of parliament. Popular house because these members of Lok Sabha are directly elected by the people. Every 5 years or whenever elections are called, the entire country has 543 constituencies, and from one constituency, one MP of Lok Sabha gets elected, and people elect the members of Lok Sabha directly. What if tomorrow there is a crime involving, let's say, a juvenile? In the age group of 16 to 18 years. Let's assume this is the horrific crime of rape. There's a lot of hue and cry, or maybe let's assume that this juvenile had raped a 6-year-old girl. Horrific crime. There are a series of protests in different parts of the country, and now there is a pressure on Lok Sabha. What is the pressure? You bring in a law to ensure that this juvenile is compulsorily given death sentence. And no mercy petition. We will discuss in the office of governor together with the office of the president, what are the judicial powers of the president and the governor? They can pardon as well. For example, the president has the power to pardon me. When I say pardon, that means you are immediately set free from the jail. You are immediately dissolved of all the crimes that you have committed. Now, the demand by the people is that this particular juvenile, we should have a law that we should compulsorily give death sentence, because there is no such thing as compulsory death sentence. Whether it is terrorism, whether it is murder, whether it is rape, whether it is dacoity, murder, rape, dacoity, or horrific crimes against the state, there is no such thing as compulsory death sentence. Death sentence cannot be awarded compulsorily. Death sentence can be awarded only in the rarest of the rare cases, something we have discussed in the past. And now the demand of the people is that this parliament should bring in a law to provide compulsory death sentence to this juvenile or to any person who commits such a horrific crime against a girl child. And for that, there should be no mercy petition. That means once the court has declared you are guilty, death sentence should be awarded, and this particular accused or this convict shall not be eligible to file an appeal for mercy before the President of India. Passions are high, so automatically you will demand a lot of things. And some of these things may not be justifiable as well. Some of these things may not be fair as well. But what would Lok Sabha do? Nothing. Because people are directly electing the members of Lok Sabha. There is a pressure on the members of the Lok Sabha that you get this bill passed, otherwise in the next election we will not vote for you. And Lok Sabha, what it will do, it will buckle down, it will succumb to this popular pressure which has been imposed by the people on Lok Sabha, and they will pass this bill. Once this bill is passed, this bill is sent to Rajya Sabha. And who all are the members of the Rajya Sabha? House of Elders, who will calm the temperatures. They're not directly elected by the people, so they're not directly accountable to the people as well. They will sit on this bill. They will not pass this bill. This bill will continue to be debated, discussed, but it won't be passed by Rajya Sabha, with the hope that public memory is short-lived, with the hope that once the public temper cools down, ultimately we will be able to set aside this bill. We will not pass this bill because this is unfair, unjust, unreasonable. That is meant to be the role of Rajya Sabha, to calm the tempers, to cool the tempers. Because Lok Sabha is the popular chamber of the House, popular chamber of the Parliament. It will come under the direct pressure of the people, and people may demand anything. Now, to ensure that such laws, such bills are not passed, we have Rajya Sabha, House of Elders, who will make amendments to this bill, who may reject this bill, who may not act on this bill, who may suggest some recommendations to this bill. That is meant to be the job of Rajya Sabha. Then we looked at what are the qualifications in order to be elected to either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. But you should not only be qualified, you should also not come under disqualification. Once you are elected as the member of the Parliament, and these disqualification grounds are common for Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha, for Legislative Assembly as well as Legislative Council, which we will discuss later. What are the grounds? Number one, change in the nature of citizenship. In order to contest elections to Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, you should be the citizen of India. Let's assume right now I am the citizen of India. I contested elections. I became a member of the Parliament. After that, I renounce my citizenship. I take the citizenship of another foreign country. Does that mean I should continue while being the citizen of another country as the member of the Parliament? What if my term was for 5 years, but after 2 years there is a change in the nature of my citizenship? I will be disqualified. Second, which means once I would be disqualified, that means my seat would become vacant. And then for this seat, something known as by-election would be conducted by the Election Commission of India. If the remainder term is more than 6 months. For example, I am Rahul Gandhi, member of Lok Sabha from Wayanad constituency. When I contested the election, I was the citizen of India. After that, let's assume all these rumors are true, that Rahul Gandhi has the citizenship of Britain as well. That means he has voluntarily acquired the citizenship of Britain, which means his citizenship should be terminated. What if the Ministry of Home Affairs tomorrow terminates the citizenship of Rahul Gandhi? He will be disqualified from Lok Sabha because there is a change in the nature of citizenship. Now, if the term of Mr. Rahul Gandhi for this Lok Sabha was 5 years, what will happen to the seat? It will remain vacant. That means for this seat, Election Commission of India should hold a by-election. By-election means now election will be conducted so that an MP is elected for the remainder of the term. Which means if Rahul Gandhi was there for 2 years, now this MP will be elected for the remainder, which is 3 years. But what if Rahul Gandhi is disqualified now? There would be less than 6 months left for the term of the Lok Sabha, which means now it is not necessary to organize the by-election. Because in any case, within 6 months, a new election will be conducted. Clear? Second, there is a member of the parliament. Now, this member of the parliament has been declared bankrupt. You have been declared bankrupt. What if tomorrow there is an allegation, for example, something that we will discuss in the case of Mahua Moitra, although that is not the bankruptcy case, that is related to cash for questions. She is alleged to have taken cash, money, for asking questions inside the parliament related to Mr. Adani. Whether that is correct or not, whether that is breach of privilege or not, whatever it is, we will discuss slightly later. But the point is, what if a member of the parliament is declared bankrupt? Now, once you are declared bankrupt, there is a conflict of interest. Maybe you will take money to somehow vote in the parliament. That means one political party is telling you, take this money and vote in our favor. A political party or a company or a corporate sector is giving you money to ask certain questions inside the parliament. Now, the moment you are declared bankrupt, you will be disqualified. Also, because declaration of bankruptcy also involves that you are no longer solvent. You no longer have the capacity. You are disqualified. C, mental unsoundness. I was a sane person, full mind and capacity when I contested the election and I became a member of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. But suddenly, because of some reasons, I turned insane. You should have sympathies with me. But you cannot entrust me with the responsibility of making laws for the country because I would not be able to justify it, justify my role, justify my presence. So the moment I'm declared mentally unsound, I will be disqualified. Also, I will be disqualified if I'm holding an office of profit, which we will discuss today. I told you we will discuss in Union Legislature what is this office of profit. Any other ground as may be prescribed by the Parliament, by law. And we have a law known as Representation of the People Act 1951. We have a law known as the 10th Schedule of the Constitution, which deals with anti-defection law. which means if you are qualified to contest elections to Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, you got elected as well. That doesn't mean your term will be for 5 years. Even before 5 years, there may arise a vacancy. Vacancy because if there is a change in the nature of your citizenship, you will be disqualified. If you are holding office of profit, you will be disqualified. If you are declared bankrupt, you will be disqualified. If you are declared mentally unsound, you are disqualified. This is a legal declaration. Legal declaration means it does not mean that I will tell you or I will accuse one person that you are mentally unsound and that will be basis for his disqualification or for her disqualification. No, it has to be proven in the court of law. It has to be declared by the court that yes, this person is legally unsound, is mentally unsound. So legal declaration, then this person will be disqualified. But who will disqualify you? President. On the basis of the report of the Election Commission of India, which is binding on the president. That means if these are the grounds on the basis of which you should be disqualified, grounds such as change in the nature of citizenship, mental unsoundness, if you are declared bankrupt, office of profit, whenever there is an allegation that this particular MP should be disqualified because there is a change in the nature of the citizenship, refer this matter to the president, because president will have the power to disqualify you. But president cannot take the decision on his own. President will have to refer this matter to Election Commission of India, and then Election Commission of India will submit a report whether this person should be disqualified or not. And this report of the Election Commission of India is binding on the President of India. If the Election Commission of India says no, you can't disqualify, president can't disqualify. If the Election Commission of India says you have to disqualify, president has to disqualify. But Constitution gives further power to the Parliament. That dear Parliament, what you can do, you can add more grounds on the basis of which an MP can be disqualified. More grounds. That means apart from change in the nature of citizenship, apart from mental unsoundness, apart from office of profit, apart from these four grounds, are there any other grounds on the basis of which an MP could be disqualified? Yes. Who will prescribe those grounds? Parliament. How? By passing a law. And Parliament has passed two such laws. One is the Representation of the People Act 1951. The other is the 10th schedule of the Constitution dealing with anti-defection law. And both these laws we will discuss separately. Representation of the People Act in elections, 10th schedule of the Constitution, when we will discuss this various schedules of the Constitution separately. Clear? Same is the case with state legislature as well. State legislature in the sense, if there is a state legislature, whether legislative assembly or legislative council, MLAs or MLCs are to be elected as well. Members of legislative assembly, MLA, members of legislative council, MLC. Now, once they are elected, they should also not come under disqualification. That means these are the grounds that are mentioned under which an MLA or an MLC can also be disqualified. But who will disqualify? Governor. But governor cannot act on his own. Just like the president cannot act on his own, the governor has to refer this matter to the Election Commission of India. And whatever report is given by Election Commission of India, that is binding on the governor. Clear? Now, of late, I've realized one thing, that whatever I say or whatever I teach may turn out to be completely untrue based on the empirical reality. In a sense, I read books, I've read law, so I would know these are the provisions of the Constitution. So normally this is what the president or the governor has to do. But something unique is happening these days. Everything goes for a toss. How? We have Mr. Hemant Soren. Hemant Soren is the chief minister of the state of Jharkhand. Now, the allegation against him was that he was the mining minister as well, and he allocated a mining contract to his own company, which is violation of office of profit. What is that office of profit? We will discuss slightly later. Hemant Soren was accused of holding this office of profit and as such should have been disqualified. BJP raised this issue vehemently and ultimately asked the governor of the state of Jharkhand that you have to disqualify Hemant Soren. The governor of Jharkhand said, I cannot decide on my own. I will have to refer this matter to the Election Commission of India. And whatever report Election Commission of India submits, I have to abide by that. That's binding on me. Election Commission was referred this matter. Election Commission submitted this report as well. Now, what did I tell you? This report is binding on the governor. What the governor is doing, he's not acting on this report. He is neither disqualifying Mr. Soren, nor he is declaring that I'm not disqualifying Hemant Soren. He is not holding an office of profit. He is not acting on this matter at all. So this is strange in the sense that it conflicts between what is there in the constitution, what is there in the law, and what is the empirical reality, what is actually happening on the ground. But be that as it may, we still have Mr. Hemant Soren as the Chief Minister of Jharkhand. No action has been taken against him. I'm not saying action should be taken against him. All I'm saying is make this report public of the Election Commission of India. Tell us what is there in this report so that we can teach our students whether this report is binding on the president or the governor or not. In fact, there has been a change in the office of governor as well. The governor of Jharkhand was shifted to Maharashtra. A new governor was appointed, and this new governor also is not acting on this report. Clear? But be that as it may, this is what it is. Let's come to the most important part. What is the office of profit? Separation of powers is strictly followed in a presidential form of democracy, where there is separation of powers between legislature, executive, and judiciary. Clear? But there is no strict separation of powers when it comes to parliamentary democracies such as England, such as India. And we say in India there is separation of powers as mandated by the constitution between the executive and the judiciary. But there is no separation of powers between legislature and the executive. But if there is one small thread of separation of powers between executive and legislature, that is this office of profit. And for that, we have to go back to Britain, where this office emerged, where this concept, office of profit, emerged. How? We have the office of Queen as part of the executive, and we have the legislature, where MPs are elected. Clear? Initially, Queen had all the powers, the king had all the powers. But over a period of time, the Queen, which had all the powers, who was an absolute monarch, was converted into a nominal head, titular head. She just holds a title. She does not have the real power. The real power to make law is with the legislature. The real executive power is with the prime minister and his ministers. And soon the king or the queen realized that even my office may be abolished. Even my position may be abolished. So what the queen did, she set up offices. And these offices are under the executive, under the queen. And to these offices, MPs are appointed. Now you will say, sir, what is the problem? What is the issue? The issue is when these legislators are appointed to those offices which are under the executive, there is a clash. clash between the duty and the interests of legislators. If I'm elected to the parliament, what is my job? My principal job is to make law. But my other principal job is to hold the executive accountable. Tell us, why are there deaths happening because of pandemic? What is the status of our health infrastructure? Why are accidents taking place on a regular basis? What are you doing to solve the menace related to the stray dogs? For example, we saw a businessman recently passed away, unfortunately, because he was running away from a stray dog, fell down, got hit on his head, and ultimately passed away after a few days. Through these questions, through these debates, through these motions and resolutions, which we will discuss today, it is the job of the legislator to hold the executive accountable. And if this executive does not have the majority, they will have to go, they will have to resign. But who will decide whether you have the majority or not? Legislators. But now legislators have their own interest. Legislators are appointed to the offices under the Queen, under the executive. So will these legislators question the Queen, question the executive? No. These legislators will be under the influence of the executive. They will not be able to perform their job of holding the executive accountable because their duty is clashing with the interest. And the interest is, we have to occupy this office because it pays us as well, it is giving us influence as well. Parliament of Britain passed a law called Office of Profit. Any legislator, if he or she is holding any office under the executive, that is an office of profit. And on this ground, you will be disqualified from the legislature. That is how this office originated, so that there is some sense of separation of powers between the executive and the legislature, so that the legislators, they can perform their duty of holding the executive accountable, so that there is separation of powers between the executive and the legislature. Any member of the parliament, any legislator holding an office under the executive, this is an office of profit, and if you hold this office, you will be disqualified. Which means before the election, if you are holding this office, you cannot contest, because we know you will come under the influence of the executive. If before the election you were not holding this office, after your election, now you are appointed to this office, after your appointment, you will be disqualified. Why? Because it clashes between the interests and the duties of the legislator. But then the British Parliament was told, what about a minister? What about the Prime Minister? Because these are all legislators and they are holding office under the executive. Prime Minister is a legislator, he is also part of the executive. Ministers are part of the legislature, they are also part of the executive. So does that mean any legislator, once he becomes a minister or once she becomes a minister, she should be disqualified? So no, we will create exceptions. Exceptions, for example, ministers. Because you have to be a legislator in order to become a minister. So once a legislator is appointed as a minister, although you are holding an office, but this office is kept under exemption. That means if you hold this office, you will not be disqualified. If you hold any other office other than the ministership, you will be disqualified. And that is something that Indian Constitution also provided for. A person shall be disqualified for being chosen as and for being a member of either house of the parliament. You will be disqualified from being chosen as. That means you can't even contest elections. That means this is also before election, after your election. You cannot be chosen as a member of the parliament if you are holding an office of profit. And after your election, if you are holding an office of profit, you will be disqualified. But if this office is under the government of India if this office is under the government of the state other than an office declared by Parliament by law not to disqualify its holder. This is what we call exemption. And this exemption list was provided by members of Parliament, Prevention from Disqualification Act 1959. What is the office of profit? A member of the Parliament or an individual cannot contest elections if you are holding an office of profit under the government of India, under the government of the state. After your election, if you are holding an office of profit under the government of India, under the government of the state, you will be disqualified. But there are certain offices which you can hold. There are certain offices which the legislator can hold. Even if you're holding these offices, you will not be disqualified. Why? Because these offices have been exempted. Why? Parliament has the power to make a law. And through this law, you can exempt some offices from this post of office of profit. And for that, we have a law known as MPs Prevention from Disqualification Act 1959. For example, ministers. A legislator, even if the legislator is appointed as a minister under the executive, this legislator will not be disqualified. Why? Because this minister post is kept under the exemption list in this law known as MPs Prevention from Disqualification Act 1959. Clear? What is the need? The need is to secure independence of the members of the Parliament and to ensure that Parliament does not have the members who receive favors and benefits from the executive and who consequently are under the obligation to the executive. Then they will be amenable to its influence. So now executive will influence these legislators, which goes against separation of powers, because one organ should not influence the other organ. That is why, in order to ensure the independence of the legislators, in order to ensure that they are not under the undue influence of the executive, we have this office of profit, because if this office of profit is not there, then these legislators will come under the influence of the executive. But this is not where the story ends. Jaya Bachchan versus Election Commission of India, 2006. Jaya Bachchan, she was the member of Parliament belonging to Rajya Sabha. She belongs to the Samajwadi Party. And as the member of the Parliament belonging to Rajya Sabha, she was also appointed as the chairperson of UP Film Development Corporation. And when she was appointed as the chairperson of UP Film Development Corporation, somebody raised this issue that Jaya Bachchan should be disqualified. Why? Because she is holding an office of profit under the government of any state. And this post, chairperson of UP Film Development Corporation, is not under the exemption list. That means she is holding an office of profit under the state. And this office is not under the exemption list. She should be disqualified. President said, I will refer this matter to the Election Commission of India. Because I am APJ Abdul Kalam, I am not someone else. I will refer this matter to the Election Commission of India. Whatever report is given by Election Commission of India, that will be binding on me. Election Commission looked at this case. Election Commission gave its report and said, please disqualify Jaya Bachchan. President said, sure. Jaya Bachchan was disqualified. And Jaya Bachchan approached the Supreme Court. My lord, I have been wrongly disqualified. Said, why? I am holding an office, but it is not an office of profit. I could be disqualified if I was holding an office of profit, not any other office. I am not taking any salary. I am not taking any benefit from the state government. I am doing it out of my public love, out of my affection for the film fraternity. I should not be disqualified. And if I am disqualified, then others should also be disqualified. Members of the parliament asked that please raise the issue of Sonia Gandhi. Sonia Gandhi is also a legislator belonging to Lok Sabha, but she is also holding the post of chairperson of National Advisory Council, which is a body created by the executive. So this legislator should be disqualified. L.K. Advani, please raise this issue. You are the leader of the opposition. Mr. Advani was shocked. Said, how can I raise this issue? I am also then holding an office of profit. I will also be disqualified. Somnath Chatterjee, you are the speaker of the Lok Sabha. Please, you ask this issue. You have a debate. Said, how can I debate? I am also holding the post of the board of Shanti Niketan. I am at the board of the Shanti Niketan University. That should also be an office of profit. And then we realize that there are close to 40 such members of the parliament who should ideally be disqualified because they are holding office of profit. And when Jaya Bachchan approached the Supreme Court of India, Supreme Court said, we have to first prove 4 things. What are the 4 things that we have to prove? First, we have to prove whether you are holding an office. Then we have to prove whether you are holding an office of profit. Then we have to look at whether you are holding an office of profit under the government. Then we have to see, even if that is office of profit under the government, but if this office is under the exemption list, we cannot disqualify you. If that office is not in the exemption list, we will disqualify you. But first thing we have to prove is whether you are holding an office. Jaya Bachchan was asked, what do you think is an office? Jaya Bachchan said, please you tell me, what is an office? The Supreme Court said, office is an office if it has an independent existence. Ms. Jaya Bachchan, office is an office if it has an independent existence. Jaya Bachchan said, I can understand the script of the movies, but I don't understand this legal language. Please make it clear. What is this office is an office if it has an independent existence? Court said, don't worry, we'll explain. Madam Jaya Bachchan, this office of UP Film Development Corporation, the chairperson of UP Film Development Corporation, what will happen to this office after you're dead? I said, God forbid, why are you after my death? Okay, not after your death, after you resign or after you're removed. What will happen to this office? Will this office survive or will this office disappear with your disappearance? I said, no, after I am dead or I'm removed or I resign or my term is over, someone else will be appointed to this office of the chairperson of UP Film Development Corporation. The court said that means this office has an independent existence. That means independent of the occupier. It doesn't matter who is the occupier, the office will continue. Occupiers of this office may change, but the institution will continue. That means this office has an independent existence of its own. You are holding an office. Said, okay, that's fine. An office is an office if it has an independent existence, which means if not me, tomorrow Amitabh Bachchan can be the chairperson of this body. Yes, you believe in dynasty, so be it. After that, Aishwarya Rai Bachchan, yes. After that, Aradhya Bachchan, yes. Why not Abhishek Bachchan? He's not worth it. Okay, whatever. The point is, this office has an independent existence. Yes. But sir, what is that office? Or which is that office which does not have an independent existence? Some months ago, Mr. Amit Shah inaugurated an office in Bengaluru South belonging to Tejaswi Surya. Tejaswi Surya is the member of parliament of Lok Sabha from Bengaluru South constituency, belongs to the BJP. Now, he inaugurated an office. That office does not have an independent existence. That means as long as Tejaswi Surya is the member of parliament, this office will continue. Once Tejaswi Surya's term is over, this office disappears. This office will not remain. That means this office does not have an independent existence. It is dependent upon the occupier. As long as occupier is there, office continues. The moment occupier is gone, the office disappears. So in office of profit, Jai Bachchan, we have to first prove whether you're holding an office, which means an office which has an independent existence. If you're holding an office of dependence, which is dependent upon you, then it is not an office. So you will not be disqualified. Tejaswi Surya will not be disqualified. Second, we have to prove whether it is an office of profit. Jai Bachchan said, now you are correct. Even if I am holding the office of the chairperson of UP Film Development Corporation, this is not an office of profit because I don't get any salary. I don't draw any benefit. Supreme Court said we don't have to look at profit in terms of money alone. We have to look at something known as pecuniary gain. Jai Bachchan said, again, I don't understand this legal language. I understand the film scripts. You tell me what is the meaning of pecuniary gain. Court said, don't worry. We'll explain. You are not given any salary for this office, right? Correct. I'm not given any salary. I do not get any compensation. I do not charge any fee. I don't even have a government vehicle. I don't even have a government bungalow. I don't need it. That is well beyond or lower than my dignity. I stay with Mr. Bachchan and you know how beautiful it is. I said, okay. So I don't profit from this office. So it is not an office of profit. Court said, no. We have to look at something known as pecuniary gain. And what is this pecuniary gain? You are not taking any salary for this office. No. But is there a salary mentioned for this office in the law passed by the state legislature? Yes, it is. Although you're not taking that salary, you have forfeited your salary, you have given up your salary, but there is a salary mentioned for this office. Yes, it is an office of profit. Whether you take that salary or not doesn't matter. It is an office of profit. And not just that. The concept of office of profit is not just to look at money aspect. It is to look at influence. Who has appointed you? Executive. What is your job? To hold the executive accountable. Which means tomorrow if Samajwadi Party, which is in power at the center as well, which supports the Congress government at the center, if Samajwadi Party tells you you have to vote in favor of Dr. Manmohan Singh, you will have to vote in favor. Because if you say, no, I will not support this bill or I will not support this issue, then they will remove you from the post of UP Film Development Corporation. Which means to save your position as the chairperson of UP Film Development Corporation, instead of holding the executive accountable, you will support them. Otherwise, you will be removed from this office. It is this influence that we are against. It is this influence that Constitution envisaged, that a legislator should not come under the influence of the executive. So first, Jai Bachchan, you are holding an office. Second, it is an office of profit. Whether you take money or not, we are not even concerned with money. We are concerned with pecuniary gain. We are concerned with influence. If the executive is exerting influence on you, you are holding an office of profit. And third, we have to then prove whether it is an office created by the government or under the government of India or the government of state. Somebody wrote in the comments, Sir Gautam Gambhir, while being the member of the parliament belonging to Lok Sabha from the BJP, he is also doing commentary. That is his individual pursuit. If he is asked by BCCI to commentate, BCCI is not a state. If he is asked by Star Sports to do the commentary, Star Sports is not a state. It is the second revenue or source of money for Gautam Gambhir. Just like for Kapil Sibal, he is a member of the parliament, but he is also present in the Supreme Court arguing the cases and charging hefty sum as fee from his clients. Same goes with Mr. P. Chidambaram. Same goes with some pilots. Rajiv Pratap Rudy, member of the parliament, also the pilot with the Indigo, sometimes taking the MPs on a fly ride as well. You should be holding an office of profit under the government. If it is office of profit under the private sector, it is not an office of profit. For example, Mr. Subhash Chandra, member of the parliament belonging to the Rajya Sabha, also the chairperson of the Z Enterprises. Although you're holding an office of profit, but this is not under the state government or the central government. So you're not disqualified. So first thing we have to prove is, Jaya Bachchan, if you are holding an office. Second, if it is an office of profit. Third, if it is an office of profit under the government of India or government of the state. And fourth, if this is the office which has been exempted by the law passed by the parliament, you will not be disqualified. Which means if this post of the chairperson of UP Film Development Corporation was mentioned in this law as the exemption, you would not have been disqualified. Madam Jaya Bachchan, we are sorry, we love your movies, but you are disqualified from being the member of the Rajya Sabha. This is an office of profit. Then what happened to Sonia Gandhi and others? Sonia Gandhi took the moral responsibility. She resigned because she knew what's going to happen. This MP Prevention from Disqualification Act 1959, it was now sought to be amended in 2006. MP's Prevention from Disqualification Amendment Bill 2006. And this bill came to be known as Office of Profit Bill. So when Srimati Sonia Gandhi resigned, and then she contested the election again. She resigned both from the chairperson of chairperson of National Advisory Council, as well as the member of the parliament from Lok Sabha. And then she contests the election from Rai Bareli constituency. This time she wins by an even thumping majority and is now a member of the Lok Sabha. But while she is member of the Lok Sabha, her party MPs had already done the job. They passed a law to beautifully, quietly provide this office of the chairperson of National Advisory Council mention in this exemption list, so that once Madam Gandhi comes back, she can occupy this post. This post is already under the exemption list. Once she is appointed to that post again, she will not be disqualified. And I told you, President Kalam, when this bill was presented to him, he sent the bill back, asking the parliament to reconsider this bill. But once the same bill was passed again by the parliament without any changes, without any modifications, as suggested by Dr. Kalam, even then he had to accept it. He signed this bill, the bill became a law, and now we have the exemption list where this office is also mentioned. I'll tell you more such examples. For example, ministers, leader of opposition. Leader of opposition also is a cabinet rank. So Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge in the Rajya Sabha is the leader of the opposition. He is enjoying the status of the cabinet minister. Is that not an office under the executive? No. Why? Because it is under the exemption list. Even if a legislator is holding the post of the leader of the opposition, you will not be disqualified, because this is the office which is kept under the exemption list. And listen to me carefully. Leader of opposition has the status of cabinet minister. That doesn't mean he is a cabinet minister. Status means when the official gatherings takes place, what should be the seating arrangement? First, we will have the president, then we'll have the vice president, then we'll have the prime minister. What is the warrant of precedence? We will have former presidents, the Bharat Ratna awardees, then we'll have the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Chief Justice of India, cabinet ministers, and these cabinet ministers also, we will have the leader of the opposition. Then would be the other members of the parliament. 1991, Congress party emerged as the single largest party in Lok Sabha, but could not win the majority. Rajiv Gandhi by then was unfortunately assassinated as well in Tamil Nadu. Then once Congress emerged as the single largest party, now the debate was who will become the prime minister. Pranab Mukherjee was clear. I would become the prime minister. Why? Because I'm the senior most member of the party belonging to Lok Sabha. In fact, I lost the post of prime ministership to Rajiv Gandhi in 1984 because this question was asked in 1984 as well. When Srimati Indira Gandhi was assassinated, then the debate was who will become the prime minister. One section obviously believed that Rajiv Gandhi should take up the job. Pranab Mukherjee, in his heart, he felt that I would take up this job because I'm the senior most member of the party. But in 1984, he was overlooked. Rajiv Gandhi became the prime minister. Now there is no Rajiv Gandhi. Pranab Mukherjee was 100% sure that I will now become the prime minister. But Congress party decided to opt for P.V. Narasimha Rao. And Pranab Mukherjee felt rejected, dejected as well. P.V. Narasimha Rao thought that I should not appoint Pranab Mukherjee as a minister because he's a senior member after all. He's more senior to me. So he will not listen to me if he is made a minister. But still, I have to keep him in good humor. He goes and meets Pranab Mukherjee and tells him that I will appoint you because you have a sound knowledge of finances. I will appoint you as the deputy chairperson of the planning commission. Pranab Mukherjee laughed. Said, why? Said, what do you want to do? You want to disqualify me? Said, sir, I never said that. Why do you think that? Why do you feel like this? Why should I do that? No, because I'm a legislator belonging to Lok Sabha. If you will appoint me to any other office other than the minister, I will be disqualified. So if you are appointing me as the deputy chairperson of the planning commission, as a legislator, I will have to be disqualified. I said, sir, please don't worry. We have a law. MP's Prevention from Disqualification Act of 1959. We will amend it. We will amend it to ensure that a legislator, which is you, once you're appointed to the deputy chairperson of the planning commission, you will not be disqualified because this post we will keep under the exemption list. Okay, and that is how Pranab Mukherjee was appointed as the deputy chairperson of the planning commission, despite the fact that he was the member of the parliament. Similarly, a member of the parliament today can be appointed as the chairperson of National Commission for Minorities. Although it is a post, office, or profit under the executive, but you will not be disqualified. Chairperson of the National Commission for SCs, chairperson of the National Commission for STs, chairperson of the National Commission for Women. Even if a legislator is appointed to these posts, you will not be disqualified. Why? Because these offices are under the exemption list. But what is an office of profit? To secure the need is to feel the independence of legislators. Because if they are appointed to offices which are under the executive, they will be under the influence of the executive, or they will be amenable to the influence of the executive. That is the office of profit. Any questions? Please let me know. A person to be elected to Rajya Sabha from a particular state should be a registered voter in that state? No, can be a registered voter in any state. Sir, what about IAS officers teaching other institutions? Isn't it an office of profit? Are these coaching institutes under the state? No, so they can. But it violates the service rules. That is why these officers, they take the permission of their department when they want to teach somewhere. And some of them are doing it discreetly, even without telling anybody. That is why you will see them teaching in the offline coaching centers. But they won't teach online, because online somebody would give the recordings to their department. See, your officer without your permission is teaching here. That is why not on YouTube, not on online, but in offline. If an IS officer after resignation becomes MP, will he be disqualified or not? IS officer has resigned and then he becomes an MP. That means as an MP, you're not holding any office. So why should you be disqualified? Mr. Pandya, who is considered to be the most powerful officer in Odisha, originally from Tamil Nadu, he opted for voluntary retirement. If you read today's Indian Express newspaper, opted for voluntary retirement. His voluntary retirement was accepted by the central government. And now he is a cabinet minister rank official in the Odisha state, in charge of the 5T department. That is after he is no longer an IS officer now, so he can be a minister. As Annamalai in Tamil Nadu, he was an IPS officer, resigned, and then joined politics, became the member of the BJP. But sir, some of the IS officers are even on YouTube, and they claim that they don't charge money for that. It is for larger public interest that they are sharing their knowledge, but they have not taken money for this. They have taken money in the bank account of their spouse or their parents or their relatives or their domestic help, but not in their personal account. Can a member of the parliament be a member of both the houses at the same time? No. Isn't planning commission called Niti Ayog now? There is no planning commission now. Planning commission has been abolished. A new body has been created called Niti Ayog, which we say is the replacement of planning commission. But the role of planning commission was different as compared to that of the Niti Ayog. But we have to give this example because to explain how this exemption list is done. Sir, is depression, anxiety, autism, mental unsoundness? No, it is not. Okay. But sir, they are making videos in working hours than IS, IPS YouTube videos. One, I think you're concerned once you clear this examination, if we go on YouTube, will we be able to make money or not? There are enough ways, loopholes that you can use to even get the money. Second, the report of the Election Commission of India is binding on the governor. When the Election Commission of India recommends whether you have to disqualify an MP or an MLA or not, they're not acting on that report. So I'm telling you what constitution is, also what is happening. So even if the rules are violated, that doesn't mean there are no rules. There are rules, even if you violate. So there is no post called national advisor in the exemption list. National security advisor, but Mr. Ajit Doval is not a legislator. So when he's not a legislator, how can you disqualify him? From where will you disqualify him? We are talking about legislators holding an office of profit. If tomorrow I am appointed as national security advisor, how will I be disqualified from parliament? I am not a member of the parliament. So we are talking about those legislators. Once they hold any office of profit, they should be disqualified. So Rahul Gandhi contested from both the seats. What if he wins both? He has to give up one seat. Just like Mr. Modi contested from Varanasi as well as from Vadodara in Gujarat in 2014. but you can't be representing two constituencies. You have to give up one. And he gave up Vadodara, he retained Varanasi, and from Vadodara, a new MP was elected. By election was held in Vadodara. Now, let's look at some of the offices. First, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. First, we will talk about the election of the Speaker. This Speaker of Lok Sabha should be a member of Lok Sabha. And anybody who gets simple majority is elected as the Speaker of Lok Sabha. Who is the Speaker of Lok Sabha? Mr. Om Birla, for example, is the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. We say the Speaker of the Lok Sabha is the custodian of Lok Sabha, ensures the business of Lok Sabha. Who gets to speak for how many minutes on a particular bill? If you are violating the rules, you will have to sit down, throw them out of the Lok Sabha. Please sit down. Don't talk. Talk to me. Look at me while you're talking. Don't talk to each other. Maintaining discipline, decorum in the house, that's the job of the Speaker. But sir, you said who gets to speak and for how much time? Isn't that decided by political parties? Yes, it is. On a bill, for example, there is going to be a debate. Let's say the bill is X. On this bill, there is a debate. I get to decide how many hours this debate will last. Let's say I decide that the debate on this bill will last for 5 hours. Now I have to give time to all the political parties. But I give time to political parties depending upon their strength. Why should be the amount of time that I allocate to Congress be same as the amount of time that I allocate to Samajwadi Party? Because there is a difference in the number of representatives they have. Why should be the amount of time given to BJP same as the amount of time that we can give to Nationalist Congress Party? Or that we give to a national conference? Or we give to a political party which has got only one MP in Lok Sabha? So I will give time to each political parties in proportion to their strength. And once I am telling the BJP that you have 2 hours to debate this bill, then the BJP will nominate their own MPs. That this MP will speak for 10 minutes, this MP will speak for 20 minutes. But I will call these MPs. Without my permission, they cannot speak. That's the job of the Speaker. To ensure that this bill is debated, to ensure that this bill is voted upon, to ensure that voting takes place and how voting takes place, that is the job of the Speaker. So long story short, Speaker is like the custodian of Lok Sabha, the class monitor of Lok Sabha, disciplining the members of Lok Sabha. But who is the Speaker? The Speaker is not appointed. The Speaker is elected. And how is the Speaker elected? All these MPs of Lok Sabha, they will vote to elect one person from amongst themselves. That means you have to be necessarily the member of the Lok Sabha to preside over Lok Sabha. Whoever gets simple majority becomes the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, which basically means the Speaker is always from a ruling party or ruling coalition. Move slide, sir. Currently is wrong one. How? Why Parliament has not elected Deputy Speaker? Wait, my dear. First, we will look at Speaker, then his Deputy. Park your thoughts. Hold your horses. That is why I say the Speaker is always from the ruling party or the ruling coalition. For example, Mr. Om Birla belongs to the BJP. BJP is the ruling party. Prior to that, Ms. Sumitra Mahajan, she was from the BJP. BJP was the ruling party. Prior to that, Srimati Meera Kumar from the Congress party. Prior to that, Somnath Chatterjee, not from the Congress, but from the ruling coalition, UPA, because Congress, RJD, CPI, CPIM, NCP, all these political parties decided to come together to form the government. So the speaker, if not from the ruling party, will be from the ruling coalition. And this has happened repeatedly. And this is where we say that speaker, once elected, can be removed based on the resolution passed by Lok Sabha by effective majority. The speaker, any member of the parliament belonging to Lok Sabha can contest elections to the post of the speaker. Then there will be voting. Whoever gets simple majority will become the speaker. That doesn't mean speaker can remain in office till the completion of the Lok Sabha. At any point in time, the speaker can also be removed. But the removal this time requires a difficult majority, a slightly tougher majority. The speaker is elected by simple majority, can be removed by the effective majority. On what grounds? These grounds are not mentioned in the constitution. So it is basically the discretion of the ruling party. They want to replace this speaker with someone else, they can do that. They can ask Mr. Om Birla, you resign, we will appoint someone else, we will elect someone else. If Mr. Birla says, no, I will not resign, then he will be removed. If the Lok Sabha passes a resolution by effective majority, which is more than half of the then strength of the House. Whatever is the strength of the House, more than half of that is required to remove the speaker. Voting, for example, let's suppose I am now the speaker of the Lok Sabha and there is a particular bill on which we have to vote. If this bill is passed by simple majority, it will go to Rajya Sabha. If this bill is not passed by simple majority, it won't travel to Rajya Sabha because this bill has not been passed. Now let's suppose on this bill X, there are 250 MPs who are in favor. There are 250 MPs who are against. That means on this bill, we have a tie. Normally, I don't vote in the first instance. Normally, I don't vote in the first instance. That means when this bill is taken up for debate, I ask all the MPs to speak on this bill. No, you're crossing the line. No, nothing will go on record. What is this? Nothing will go on record. If you have witnessed some of the proceedings of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, everything that the members of the parliament say, it is recorded. Even today, you can go through the transcript of the debates of the Constituent Assembly, so that 70 years later, whatever parliament is debating right now, somebody who is doing a research or somebody who's interested in knowing what was happening can go through the transcript of these debates. So whatever the members of the parliament are saying, that is recorded, that is transcribed for future use. That is why the speaker says, nothing will go on record. No, you are not allowed. I have given permission to X to speak. Y cannot speak. So whatever you are saying will not go on record. Yes, you tell me. If you have used some words which are objectionable, I will then say that these words are to be expunged. That means although You have uttered these words, but these words will not be recorded. That is why if you look at the transcript of some speeches, you will see that some lines are mentioned, but then there are some empty words with asterisk mark saying these remarks have been expunged. Whatever was told, we don't know why, because these remarks have been expunged. Clear? So that's the job of the speaker. Now let's suppose on this particular bill on which there was a debate, now we have to vote. I don't vote in the first instance, although I am also a member of Lok Sabha, but I don't vote because I am now the impartial member of the Lok Sabha. I am the custodian of the Lok Sabha and the speaker, monitor of the Lok Sabha. I don't vote in the first instance. I vote only when there is a tie. Whenever I see that there is a tie, 250 in favor, 250 against, I will either vote in favor of this bill or against this bill. That is my discretion, which is to prevent deadlock. Otherwise, this bill is neither passed nor rejected. What will happen to this bill? I will vote in favor so that it is passed. I will vote against so that this bill is defeated. Clear? But the speaker, I told you, normally he remains in office during the entire term of Lok Sabha. If the term of the Lok Sabha is 5 years, the speaker is there for 5 years. But even before 5 years, I may resign. And the speaker resigns by submitting his resignation to the deputy speaker. The speaker resigns by submitting his resignation to the deputy speaker. But when I have to be removed, for that, voting will have to take place in Parliament. Voting will have to take place in Lok Sabha. If by effective majority a resolution is passed, I will be removed from my office. Will I continue as the member of the Lok Sabha? Yes. I am only removed from the post of the speaker. I will still continue to be the member of the Lok Sabha. But now, for example, members of the Lok Sabha say that we have to remove you. I'll say, okay, if you want to remove me, fair enough, I will give you an option, a fair opportunity. I will get down from my chair. Someone else will occupy the post of the speaker, will occupy the chair of the speaker to ensure that voting is impartial. Voting is not biased. Now, I am the speaker right now, but I'm not on the chair of the speaker because there is a motion pending against me. They want to remove me. I will sit like any other member of the parliament. Here, when the speaker is to be removed, I will vote in first instance. That means when there is a motion pending for my removal, I will not sit on the speaker's post because that would be violation of the principles of natural justice. No person should be the judge in his own case. I will say, no, this motion is not passed, this motion is passed. I will come down, someone else will occupy this chair. I will be sitting just like any other member of the Lok Sabha because I am the member of the Lok Sabha. And now when this motion is introduced, the person is asking, please vote on this motion. I will vote in the first instance, not in case of a tie. Because if it is a tie, then the presiding officer has the casting vote. This is what we call casting vote. Just to vote in case of a tie when there is a deadlock. That's called casting vote. But if the motion is there asking for my removal, I vote in the first instance because I am there just like a member of the Lok Sabha. But the speaker has an important role in deciding disqualification petitions under anti-defection law. We will discuss what is this anti-defection. But if a member of parliament has switched from one political party to another political party, he should be disqualified. Who will disqualify this person? The Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Suspend MPs for misbehavior, ruckus, etc. The Speaker has an important role to ensure discipline in the Lok Sabha. You might have witnessed that there are MPs who come very close to where the Speaker is situated. And the Speaker is repeatedly telling them, don't come to the well of the House. So you sit on your own chair, you can also move, but there is a space surrounding Speaker that is known as the well of the House. This is where the Secretary General of Lok Sabha is sitting. This is where other officers of the Secretariat are sitting. That is known as the well of the House. Don't come to the well of the House. If you do that, I will ask the marshals, the security guard to come and throw you out of the parliament. But I have the power. I have the power to suspend MPs as well. Suspend MPs for a day, for the entire session as well. I have the power. When we contrast this power to the chairperson of Rajya Sabha, he cannot. So what are you saying? I told you when we will discuss the speaker, we will also discuss the chairperson of Rajya Sabha, because the vice president is the ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha. Whatever is the role of the Rajya Sabha, it's Lok Sabha speaker, that's the role of the Rajya Sabha speaker as well. Rajya Sabha chairperson, as we call him, the vice president of India. But with one difference. The Speaker of the Lok Sabha can suspend MPs if they are violating rules, if they are creating ruckus, if they are throwing chairs at each other. But that is not the job, that's not the power of the chairperson of Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha chairperson cannot suspend an MP for creating any ruckus. But sir, Raghav Chadha, other MPs of Congress, other MPs of Aam Aadmi Party, Trinamool Congress, they have been suspended by the chairperson of Rajya Sabha. How is that possible? Not by the chairperson, by the House. In Lok Sabha, listen to me carefully. In Lok Sabha, it is the power of the Speaker. Speaker himself can suspend MPs if they have created ruckus, if they have committed indiscipline. But in Rajya Sabha, it is not the chairperson who takes the decision. It is the House which takes the decision. So House decided that these Aam Aadmi Party MPs, that these Congress MPs, that these Trinamool Congress MPs, they should be suspended. When House decided this, then chairperson said, okay, these are to be dismissed, these are to be suspended. How does the House decide? By voting. House decided by the majority, by simple majority, that these MPs should be suspended because they have committed gross indiscipline. The chairperson agreed and chairperson said, you are suspended. Chairperson himself cannot suspend. Chairperson can suspend on the basis of the resolution of the House. Speaker of the Lok Sabha can suspend on his own. He does not need House's permission for suspension. That's the difference between the two. And we say, what is the term of Lok Sabha? 5 years. Once 5-year term is over, all the Lok Sabha MPs, they will lose their seat because their term got over. When their term got over, automatically you are gone. Except Speaker. Speaker does not resign. Along with other Lok Sabha MPs in case of dissolution. When the Lok Sabha is dissolved, all the members of the Lok Sabha, they have to resign because they lose their membership, because they are now gone. They are no longer member of the House because their term got over, except Speaker. Speaker does not resign. Speaker resigns on the first day of the session of the newly elected Lok Sabha. The term of Lok Sabha is till today. All the members of the Lok Sabha will have to resign. Speaker will not resign. Speaker will remain. Now, after some days or some weeks, now this is the day when new Lok Sabha is elected. In a sense, new Lok Sabha MPs who were elected, they are now present in the Lok Sabha. On the first day, when these MPs will gather together for the first time, on this morning, the Lok Sabha Speaker will resign. That is why we consider office of Speaker to be such an important office, that this office continues even after, this person continues to remain in office even after the Lok Sabha is dissolved. But when the new Lok Sabha is convened, on the first morning of the new Lok Sabha, the Speaker resigns, so that now this Lok Sabha can elect its own different Speaker. That is how we define the office of Speaker. And the Speaker of Lok Sabha certifies a money bill. But what is this money bill? We will discuss slightly later. But here you have to keep in mind that a bill is a money bill if it is declared, if it is certified as a money bill by the Speaker. So when a bill is passed by Lok Sabha, the Speaker certifies that this bill is a money bill. If the Speaker certifies that this bill is a money bill, this bill will be sent to Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha will get a signal that on this particular bill, we have an inferior role. So the power to certify a bill as a money bill is with the Speaker. All these are important roles and functions performed by the Speaker. But what if we don't have a Speaker? What if the Speaker is absent? What if the Speaker is traveling? What if the Speaker is busy? What if the Speaker is sleeping? In that case, somebody should be there to preside over Lok Sabha, and that individual is the Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha. This Deputy Speaker is also elected by simple majority. This Deputy Speaker can also be removed by effective majority. This Deputy Speaker shall be a member of Lok Sabha. This Deputy Speaker will preside over Lok Sabha in the absence of Speaker. This Deputy Speaker has a privilege. Whenever appointed to a committee, he or she becomes the chairperson of that committee. Let's suppose, for example, we have a committee where members are Mr. Modi, Rahul Gandhi, Amit Shah, Mahua Moitra, Derek O'Brien, Kanimoi. These are the members of this committee. Who do you think will become the chairperson of this committee? Prime Minister? Because after all, he's the Prime Minister, a topmost leader. Similarly, in Parliament, there are various committees. which we will discuss. Some of them, not all, because not important for this exam. Otherwise, throughout the year, we have to just discuss the committees. So there is privileges committee, there is ethics committee, there is committee on subordinate legislation, public accounts committee, estimates committee, committee on public sector undertakings, this committee, that committee, O committee. Now, if a deputy speaker is appointed as the member of that committee, because he is a deputy speaker, he becomes the chairperson of that committee. Speaker will not be appointed to a committee. Deputy speaker will be appointed to a committee. And once deputy speaker is appointed to a committee, he becomes the chairperson of that committee. That is the privilege which is available to the deputy speaker. What does Constitution say about deputy speaker? The House shall as soon as may be elect 2 members as the speaker and deputy speaker. We are following a convention. What is a convention? Unwritten rule, something which is not mentioned in the Constitution. And what is the convention? If the speaker is always from the ruling party or the ruling coalition, deputy speaker is from the opposition. If the speaker is from the ruling party, ruling coalition, the deputy speaker, the convention is, unwritten rule is, consensus is, should be from the opposition. Not mentioned in the Constitution, but something that we have followed since 1960s. That we have a speaker from the ruling party, we have the deputy speaker from the opposition. In the last Lok Sabha, we had speaker from the BJP and deputy speaker, Mr. Thambudurai, from the AIA-DMK, from the opposition. But right now, we don't have a deputy speaker. And the problem is not only in Lok Sabha, the problem is in Rajasthan. Sorry, the problem is in Rajasthan, the problem is in Jharkhand, the problem is in 5 states. But most importantly, the problem is in Lok Sabha. We don't have a deputy speaker. Matter went to the court. Delhi High Court. A notice was issued. Why we don't have a deputy speaker? Because the wording of the Constitution is clear. There shall be a President of India. That means this word shall says there has to be President of India at all times. This office can never remain vacant. Similarly, the Constitution says the House shall. The House has to. It is necessary for the House to elect 2 of its members, one as the Speaker, the other as Deputy Speaker. But there is no time limit. Within which the House will have to elect one as Speaker and the other as Deputy Speaker. Because the same Constitution says the House shall as soon as may be. And how is this as soon? How much is this as soon? Is it a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Just below 5 years? We don't know. But we are making a mockery of the Constitution. There shall be a deputy speaker to assist the speaker who should be elected. You can't take 4.5 years to elect a deputy speaker. And even now, I don't think deputy speaker will be elected. Why there is no deputy speaker, we don't know. Because the date of election of the deputy speaker is set by speaker. The speaker is told when is the date of election, as if he doesn't listen. Then he goes to the government. When is the date? Don't worry, keep quiet. We will tell you when we have to. Speaker says, okay. But there should be a deputy speaker. Otherwise, we are violating constitutional norms. But what if Speaker of Lok Sabha is absent? Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha is not there because we don't have a Deputy Speaker. Who will preside over Lok Sabha? The Speaker of Lok Sabha, once I'm elected as the Speaker of Lok Sabha, I will set up a panel of up to 10 MPs of Lok Sabha, which means 1 to 10. If the Speaker of Lok Sabha is not present, busy somewhere, we don't have a Deputy Speaker, then who will preside over Lok Sabha? Any one from this panel of chairpersons. That is why when you witness proceedings of Lok Sabha, sometimes you will see the speaker, sometimes you will see some other individual, sometimes someone else, and you will wonder whether the speaker has been removed or not, whether there is a change in the speaker or not. It's not a change in speaker, because once I'm elected as the speaker, I will nominate 10 MPs of Lok Sabha to this panel, so that if I'm not present, anyone from this panel can preside over Lok Sabha. But who are these 10 MPs going to be? Representatives of all political parties based on their strength. That means while nominating this panel of 10 chairperson, I will look at the strength of the Lok Sabha of each political party. So BJP will have 2-3 MPs part of this panel. Congress will have also a couple. Trinamool Congress will have one person. DMK will have a person. Others will have one person each. So that this panel of chairperson is representative of the entire parliament. So that if I'm not present, somebody from this panel will preside over Lok Sabha. But now something interesting. If the speaker is absent, then anyone from this panel will preside over Lok Sabha. But what if the office of speaker is vacant? Who will preside over Lok Sabha? Speaker of Lok Sabha presides over Lok Sabha. बैठ जाइए, please sit down, please don't talk, please listen to me, please can we discuss this bill. This is the job of the speaker. Now the speaker is absent. Who will preside over Lok Sabha? Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha. What if we don't have the office of Deputy Speaker? Don't worry, anyone from this panel will preside over Lok Sabha. Fair enough. But this is when the speaker is absent. What if the speaker is dead? Means there is a vacancy. What if the speaker has been removed? Means there is a vacancy. What if the speaker has resigned? Means there is a vacancy. In this case, who will preside over Lok Sabha? Not someone from this panel. Why? Because this panel was set up by the speaker, who is no longer a speaker. If I'm absent, then yes, this panel will continue. If I'm gone, if my office is vacant now because of my death, because of my resignation, because of my removal, then this panel will not continue. So this panel cannot preside over Lok Sabha. In this case, the president will nominate one MP from Lok Sabha. You preside over Lok Sabha. So that once you preside over Lok Sabha, you will also preside over the election of the speaker, so that we can have a newly elected speaker of the Lok Sabha. Clear? Done? Something else. And that is what we call Speaker pro tem. or pro tem speaker. The speaker remains even after the dissolution of Lok Sabha, but when the newly elected Lok Sabha meets for the first time, it is on this morning that the speaker resigns. Now, what the president does, president nominates the senior most member of Lok Sabha as the speaker pro tem. And this speaker pro tem has two responsibilities. One, to administer oath to the newly elected MPs, to preside over the election of the speaker. This new Lok Sabha has been elected. Clear? New Lok Sabha has been elected. President will look at who is the most experienced of all these newly elected Lok Sabha MPs. Experience not in terms of age, experience in terms of how many elections have they won. Who was the MP of Lok Sabha for a longest period of time out of these 543 MPs? That person will be nominated as the speaker pro tem by the president. For example, previously Kamal Nath of the Congress party was appointed speaker pro tem. Why? Because he won 8 or 9 times from the Chindwara constituency in Madhya Pradesh. Prior to that, Mr. Manik Rao Gavit. Prior to that, others. So the president will nominate one person as the speaker pro tem. And who is this person going to be? Somebody who is the most experienced of the lot. Experience in terms of the number of terms, number of years you have been Lok Sabha MP. So even if I'm 80 years of age, but this is my second term of Lok Sabha, and you are 60 years of age, but this is your fourth or fifth term in Lok Sabha, you will be nominated as the speaker pro tem. But I will also tell you that this is not a hard and fast rule. President has to necessarily nominate only you as the speaker pro tem. The president can nominate any senior member of the Lok Sabha as the speaker pro tem. But once you're nominated as the speaker pro tem, you have two jobs, two responsibilities. One, to administer oath to the newly elected MPs. Because once an MP is elected, MP cannot take his place in the Lok Sabha without being administered oath. I swear in the name of God, I solemnly affirm that I will abide by the Constitution. I will faithfully discharge the duties of this office of the member of the Lok Sabha, stuff like that. Who will administer this oath? That is why you would see that if today a new Lok Sabha MP is to be elected, he will enter the Lok Sabha, but first he will be administered oath by the speaker. And then he will walk to the chair of the speaker, either say namaste or shake his hands, and then go through the next route and then occupy his seat. That's the process. But now we don't have a speaker. Who will administer oath to these newly elected MPs? For that, we have a speaker pro tem. Who will administer oath to speaker pro tem? President. President will administer him oath. Now you are ready. Now you take oath of others. You administer oath to others. And now the speaker pro tem will administer oath to all the newly elected MPs. And now all these newly elected MPs are present inside Lok Sabha. I am the speaker pro tem. Now I will say that these are the two candidates who are contesting elections to the office of the speaker. Please vote. Whether you vote in favor of this person or that person, let's vote and decide who is going to be the speaker of the Lok Sabha. These are the two responsibilities of the speaker pro tem. Once these responsibilities are done, speaker pro tem then takes his seat in the Lok Sabha so that the newly elected speaker will say, "Baith jaiye." Clear? Sir, when removal resolution of speaker is under consideration, who presides at the sitting? Either a deputy speaker or somebody nominated by the house. Sir, is the post of speaker part of the maximum strength of Lok Sabha 543 or is it additional one? Speaker is the member of Lok Sabha, which means he should be part of that 543. So the strength of Lok Sabha, including the speaker, is 543. Can pro tem speaker be elected as the speaker? Now, for example, I am the senior most member of the Lok Sabha in terms of experience. The president says, come here. I will nominate you as the speaker pro tem. I'll say, no, not me. Why? Because my party says you contest for the post of the speaker instead. Okay. So no worries. I will nominate someone else as the speaker pro tem. Thank you so much. So that I can contest election of the speaker. Clear? Senior most member means any member or ruling. Senior most member means any senior most member. Whether you are from ruling or opposition, doesn't matter. Kamal Nath was not from the ruling party. Yet he was nominated as the speaker pro tem. Oath for MPs is mentioned in the constitution. Yes, mentioned in schedule 3 of the constitution. Sir, speaker doesn't hold constituency power after being elected. Then who decides in case issue is in constituency? Mr. Om Birla is the speaker of the Lok Sabha, but he is also the member of parliament in Lok Sabha from Kota. So that doesn't mean he has given up his Lok Sabha seat. He is still a representative of Kota. But we will discuss in 10th schedule of the constitution when we will discuss anti-defection law. There we will explain and understand one concept known as once a speaker, always a speaker, which is something found in UK, followed in UK. Is it time that we follow something in India as well? That we will discuss in anti-defection law. What is the job of the speaker pro tem? Two mentioned here: to preside over the election of the speaker and to administer oath to newly elected MPs. Why we have not allowed the previous speaker to perform the role of pro tem speaker? Because that person may not be the member of Lok Sabha. If you are not a member of the Lok Sabha, how can you enter Lok Sabha? That is why the previous speaker, who is no longer a member of Lok Sabha, cannot be a pro tem speaker. Can speaker contest in general elections after dissolution of Lok Sabha? Yes. Okay, we'll take a break. Let's meet at 8 o'clock. See you on the other side of the break. Bye-bye. Now let's look at Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. Just like in Lok Sabha, we have the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and a panel. In Rajya Sabha also, we have a Speaker known as the Vice President, the Chairperson of Rajya Sabha. We have a Deputy Speaker who is known as the Deputy Chairperson of Rajya Sabha. Deputy Chairperson of Rajya Sabha is also elected by simple majority and can be removed by the members of the Rajya Sabha by passing a resolution by effective majority. And when we say deputy chairperson is elected, that means this deputy chairperson is a member of Rajya Sabha. Is the Vice President of India, who is the chairperson of Rajya Sabha, a member of Rajya Sabha? No. We say he is the ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha. By virtue of being the Vice President, this person is the presiding officer of Rajya Sabha, presides over Rajya Sabha. In his absence, who presides over Rajya Sabha? We have the Deputy Chairperson of Rajya Sabha. And if Deputy Chairperson of Rajya Sabha is also absent, then we have a panel of Vice Chairman up to 6 MPs. Which means if there is going to be a session of Rajya Sabha, Vice President of India, who is the chairperson of Rajya Sabha, will preside over Rajya Sabha. In his absence, it is the Deputy Chairperson of Rajya Sabha who will preside over Rajya Sabha. In his absence, then anyone from this panel of 6 Vice Chairperson will preside over Rajya Sabha. But that is only if Vice President is absent. What if, for example, this post of Vice President is vacant? That means Vice President either is dead or has resigned or has been removed. Then in this case, who will preside over Rajya Sabha? Deputy Chairperson of Rajya Sabha? Because Deputy Chairperson of Rajya Sabha is also elected by the members of the Rajya Sabha. But if Deputy Chairperson of Rajya Sabha is not present, in that case, this panel will not preside. Any member of Rajya Sabha nominated by the President. Why? Because this panel of up to 6 MPs, it was nominated by the chairperson of Rajya Sabha. Now, if the chairperson of Rajya Sabha is not there, the office is vacant. In this case, this panel will not preside. Either deputy chairperson will preside, or in his absence, any member who is nominated by the president will preside over the sessions of Rajya Sabha. Is that clear? Something else. Who is the leader of the house? We have leader of house in Lok Sabha. We have leader of house in Rajya Sabha. Who is the leader of the house in Lok Sabha? Prime Minister. If he is the Lok Sabha MP. Otherwise, a senior minister. Who is the leader of the house in Rajya Sabha? Prime Minister. If Prime Minister is a Rajya Sabha MP, else a senior minister. Leader of house is the Prime Minister if member of a house, else a senior minister. Presides means I am presiding over this class. I am taking this class. Who presides over Lok Sabha? Somebody who sits on the chair of Lok Sabha Speaker and is now carrying out the business, the transaction of Lok Sabha. That means you're presiding over. For example, there's a meeting. This meeting was presided over. That means who was heading that meeting? That meeting was headed by the Prime Minister. For example, Mr. Modi is the leader of the House in Lok Sabha. Why? Because he is the member of Lok Sabha. Dr. Manmohan Singh was not the leader of House of Lok Sabha when he was the Prime Minister. Why? Because he was the Prime Minister, but he was not the member of Lok Sabha. In that case, initially Pranab Mukherjee, who was the senior minister, was the leader of the House in Lok Sabha. After he became the president, then it was Mr. Sushil Kumar Shinde, who was the leader of the House in Lok Sabha. So, leader of the House in Lok Sabha is the Prime Minister, if Prime Minister is the member of Lok Sabha, otherwise a senior minister. In Rajya Sabha, Dr. Manmohan Singh was the leader of the House because he was the Prime Minister and he was the member of the Rajya Sabha. Right now, it is not the leader of the House in Rajya Sabha is not Mr. Modi, because although he is the Prime Minister, but he is not the member of Rajya Sabha. Initially, it was Mr. Thawarchand Gehlot, who was the minister, senior minister. He was the leader of the House in Rajya Sabha. But then he became a governor, and now we have Mr. Piyush Goyal, who is a senior minister, a member of Rajya Sabha. He is the leader of the House. And what is the job of the leader of the House? If tomorrow we have to understand what is the position of the government on a particular matter, we ask the leader of the House, you tell us what is the position of the government on this particular matter. For example, what is our position on the Palestine or Israel-Hamas war? If tomorrow there is a session of the parliament, we have to ask the government, what is your position on this matter? The leader of the House will issue a statement on behalf of the government. So, leader of the House in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Prime Minister, if he is a member of that House, otherwise a senior minister. We have the leader of the opposition, who in UK is known as Shadow Prime Minister, or we say Prime Minister in waiting. Leader of the single largest opposition party with not less than 1/10 of seats. Sir, how can we know India's position in Israel-Palestine war? Is there any website? That is decided by the government, and you would come to know by the statement of the Prime Minister. He has issued a statement on Twitter, or by the statement given by the Ministry of External Affairs, which has also given a statement. That is how we come to know what is the position of the government on this matter. We should have the leader of the opposition in Lok Sabha as well as in Rajya Sabha. And this individual has the status of a cabinet minister. Particularly leader of the opposition in Lok Sabha, he plays other important roles, such as he is part of the committee to appoint Lokpal, to appoint CBI director, to appoint the Chief Vigilance Commissioner, CVC. Listen to me carefully. In Lok Sabha, if we have an opposition party which gets not less than 1/10 of the seats, which means if 543 is the total strength of Lok Sabha, any political party which gets more than 55 seats, the leader of that political party will be recognized by the speaker as the leader of the opposition in Lok Sabha. And once you are recognized as the leader of the opposition in Lok Sabha, you have the status of a cabinet minister. And as the leader of the opposition, you are part of important committees to appoint the CVC, the Lokpal, the director of the CBI. In the Rajya Sabha also, any opposition political party, which means not the ruling party, opposition, who has more than 1/10, who has not less than 1/10 of the seats in Rajya Sabha. If the seats in Rajya Sabha are 245, any political party with more than 25 seats, the leader of that political party will be recognized as the leader of the opposition in Rajya Sabha. Sir, what if we have more than one political party in Lok Sabha or more than one political party in Rajya Sabha which gets more than 1/10 of the seats? In that case, we see who is the largest or which is the largest opposition political party. Which means if the Congress has 80 seats, Trinamool Congress has 60, DMK, for example, will have 56. That means there are three political parties which satisfy this criteria of not less than 1/10 of the seats. But out of these three, which is the largest opposition party? Largest opposition party is the Congress. So the leader of the Congress in Lok Sabha will become the leader of the opposition, who in UK we call him shadow prime minister or prime minister in waiting. What does that mean? If prime minister loses his majority in Lok Sabha, that means does not have the simple majority in Lok Sabha now, who is going to be appointed next by the president as the prime minister? Who is going to be appointed as the prime minister next by the president? Who is going to be given the next opportunity to form the government? That is the leader of the opposition. And that is why we call him in UK a shadow prime minister or prime minister in waiting. But in 2014, when Lok Sabha elections, because right now we have Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge as the leader of the opposition in Rajya Sabha. Prior to him, we had Ghulam Nabi Azad of the Congress party as the leader of the opposition in Rajya Sabha. But in 2014 elections, the Congress party led by the dynamic Rahul Gandhi bagged 44 seats in Lok Sabha, which is less than 1/10 of the seats. That is why we didn't have a leader of opposition in Lok Sabha from 2014 to 2019. Then in 2019 elections, again led by the dynamic Rahul Gandhi, the Congress party bagged 52 seats, which is less than 55. That is why currently also we do not have a leader of the opposition in Lok Sabha. In 2014, in 2019, as well as in 1984, when Congress party led by Rajiv Gandhi bagged more than 414 seats in Lok Sabha. The second largest political party in Lok Sabha was the TDP, Telugu Desam Party, led by Chandrababu Naidu. It is currently led by Chandrababu Naidu. At that time, it was led by NTR. That political party had 32 seats in Lok Sabha from Andhra Pradesh. That was the single largest opposition political party in Lok Sabha. But since it had less than 1/10 of the seats, that is why the leader of Andhra Pradesh, leader of TDP in Lok Sabha was not designated and certified as the leader of the opposition. But in Delhi, in 2015 elections, when Aam Aadmi Party bagged 67 of the 70 seats, BJP bagged 3. The leader of the BJP was designated as the leader of the opposition in Legislative Assembly, despite the fact that BJP did not get more than 1/10 of the seats. In the current Legislative Assembly as well, they have the leader of the opposition. So is this 1/10 of the seats hard and fast rule? No. Why? Let's go back to first Lok Sabha. In the first Lok Sabha, the speaker had to decide the seating arrangement. For example, we have Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bengaluru, where the World Cup cricket matches are being played. What is going to be your seating arrangement? That is dependent upon the kind of ticket which you have purchased. For example, if you have purchased corporate box ticket, the cost is 50,000 rupees. If you have purchased terrace ticket, the cost is 25,000 plus the tax. If you have purchased end stand ticket, the cost is 15,000. If you have purchased a different stand ticket, the cost is 5,000. If you have purchased other stands, the cost is 1,000, the cost is 2,000. So depending upon your cost, depending upon the money that you have shelled, that determines where you are going to be seated inside the stadium. Clear? But now we have 543 MPs in Lok Sabha. Who gets to be seated where? That should depend upon the strength that you have. So a political party which has more MPs, they should be seated in the front. A political party which has only one member should be seated towards the end. So how do I decide as the speaker what is the seating arrangement? For that, the speaker decided that any political party, if it has more than 1/10 of the seats, will be categorized, will be declared as a party. Less than that would be designated as a group. So first we will give opportunity to a political party. First they should be seated. Then a group. And group is somebody, a political party which has less than 1/10 of the seats in Lok Sabha. And this 1/10 then became the criteria for leader of opposition when this post was created in the 1967. But this is not a hard and fast rule. This 1/10 criteria was basically decided by the speaker of the first Lok Sabha to decide the seating arrangement. In a democracy, we should have a leader of opposition. So instead of rigidly following this 1/10 rule, we should see that whoever is the leader of the single largest party, whether it has got 1/10 of the seats or not, that leader should be designated as the leader of the opposition in Lok Sabha, because it's a very important role to play. Somebody is asking, sir, is Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary not the leader of the opposition in Lok Sabha? No. Mr. Adhir is the leader of the single largest party in Lok Sabha. But he is not the leader of the opposition, because to get this title of the leader of the opposition, your political party should have not less than 1/10 of the seats in Lok Sabha. But then how is Mr. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary part of this committee to appoint CBI director, to appoint CVC, to appoint Lokpal? It is because the rules say who is going to be part of this committee? Leader of the opposition or leader of the single largest party. Leader of the opposition or leader of the single largest party. So since Mr. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary is the leader of the single largest party in Lok Sabha, that is why he is part of these committees. Otherwise, he would not be. That's the job of the leader of the opposition. Okay? Sir, what if there is no minister from the Rajya Sabha and all ministers are derived from Lok Sabha itself? Who then would be the leader of the house in Rajya Sabha? As of now, it has not happened. So we would not know what will happen in that case. Sir, all these things are mentioned in the constitution? No. All these things are mentioned in rules and business procedure of Parliament. Listen to me carefully. All the executive power is vested in the name of the president. But how does the president exercise his executive power? For that, the president has made rules, allocation of business rules. And these allocation of business rules talks about defense minister, external affairs minister, cabinet committees, so on and so forth. Similarly, we will have Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha mentioned in the constitution. A bill should be passed by both houses of the parliament mentioned in the constitution. But how the bill will be introduced? Who will get to vote on this bill? For that, rules are made. And these rules are what we call rules of business and procedure. The Council of Ministers are responsible to Lok Sabha. The Council of Ministers will remain in office as long as they have majority in Lok Sabha. How do we prove whether they have the majority or not? For that, we have rules. And these rules talk about no confidence motion, censure motion, adjournment motion. So rules of business and procedure, they talk about these rules, the seating arrangement, the bills that are to be taken up for discussion. Done? Then we have a whip. What is a whip? Every political party will appoint a leader who will be the floor manager. And this whip has been thoroughly decided, debated by the Supreme Court in Shiv Sena case. Listen to me carefully. We are a parliamentary democracy, 100%. But people are elected by the voters on the basis of their ideology or on the basis whether they represent a political party or not. So basically, it is the political party BJP which gives tickets to its members, and then they are elected on the basis of the ticket given by the BJP. Similarly, Congress, similarly, Aam Aadmi Party, similarly, other political parties. Yes, there are some independents as well. For example, we have the MP from Mandya constituency in Karnataka, in Lok Sabha, who is not part of any political party. She contested the elections on her own as an independent candidate. People elected her, maybe because she does not represent any political party. Maybe people were against JDS, people were against Congress, people were against BJP. That is why they voted for this lady to become the member of the Lok Sabha, because she does not represent any political party. But political parties are very important for democracy, because it is these political parties who go before the public with their election manifesto, and then people decide whether they want to vote for this political party or not. So who has given tickets to these MPs, to these members, so that they can become the MP? Political party. Now this political party and now these MPs, who will link them? Whip. Whip in the sense, what is this link? There are 303 MPs of BJP in Lok Sabha. BJP gave them ticket, they contested the election, and now they are part of the Lok Sabha. Who will tell these 303 MPs that tomorrow there is going to be the session of the parliament? Tomorrow there is going to be discussion on this particular bill. Tomorrow there is going to be a debate on this particular matter. Tomorrow there will be a debate on the Israel-Hamas war in parliament. You have to take the stand that you support Israel. Somebody has to tell these MPs what is the party position, what is the position of the BJP on this war. Somebody has to tell these MPs how you should vote on a particular bill, because after all, you are elected there because of the party. Now you have to listen to the party, and that person is the whip. This whip is appointed by the political party, so that whatever political party wants these MPs to do will be communicated to these MPs through this whip. And then this whip, on the basis of the political party, issues whips, directions, directives. It is a one-line whip, two-line whip, or a three-line whip. One-line whip means only one line is mentioned. Two lines means two lines are mentioned. Three-line means three lines are mentioned. If a member violates these two whips, no action. If a member violates three-line whip, may be disqualified, or should we say eligible to be disqualified under anti-defection law. If a member is suspended by the Speaker of Lok Sabha in effective majority, we count that person or we leave that as vacant. We have suspended Rahul Gandhi, for example. That doesn't mean Rahul Gandhi, who represents Wayanad, that seat is vacant. The seat is not vacant. Vacancy arises because of death, because of resignation, because of disqualification. Resignation, vacancy does not arise because of suspension. You are suspended from your college. That doesn't mean you are not part of the college. You're still part of the college, but you can't attend the college for 7 days or 10 days or 20 days. You're suspended from the class by one teacher, me. That means you can't attend the polity class, but you can attend other classes. Suspension is not vacancy. So even those members who are suspended, they are included in calculating effective majority. Clear? If you violate one line whip, two line whip, no action will be taken against you. But if you violate three line whip, action will be taken against you. You may be disqualified under anti-defection law. And what is this one line whip? The whip basically is in one line telling the members of the parliament that tomorrow there is going to be a session of the Indian parliament, informing them that there is going to be a session of the parliament. Whether you will attend or not doesn't matter. No action will be taken against you. Now, two lines. There is going to be a session of Indian Parliament. There is going to be a discussion on this bill. There is going to be voting on this bill as well. Please come. Whether you will come or not, vote or not, doesn't matter. No action will be taken. But three-line whip. There is going to be a session of Indian Parliament. So first, informing them of the session. Second, there is going to be a voting on citizenship amendment bill, or there is going to be voting on no confidence motion or a confidence motion on budget. And you have to vote like this. If I tell you in this three-line whip that you have to vote against this bill, if you vote in favor or if you abstain, that means you're voting or you're doing something which is contrary to the whip, you will be disqualified under anti-defection law. And more on that we will discuss in 10th schedule of the Constitution. Done? Sir, what is the role of whip in no confidence motion? Are MPs binding on whip's decision in that motion? Siddhanta is asking, what if somebody is absent? Congress whip to its members, a three-line whip, saying you have to vote against citizenship amendment bill. Or let's say you have to vote against confidence motion. I am the member of the Congress. What is mentioned in this three-line whip? That you have to vote against this confidence motion. If I vote in favor, I will be disqualified. If I neither vote in favor nor against, I abstain, I will still be disqualified. Why? Because I am doing something which is contrary to the whip. The whip is telling me specifically, vote against. If I do anything apart from voting against, I will be disqualified. That is the role of the whip. Does UPA have a common whip? No, the whip is by a political party, not by the alliance, not by the coalition. So the Congress will have its whip in Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. BJP will have its whip in Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Trinamool Congress will have its whip in Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. In the Rajya Sabha, their whip is Derek O'Brien. So whatever Derek O'Brien says will have to be abided by their MPs. Because Derek O'Brien is basically telling the position of the party to its MPs. Whatever Mamta Didi and Abhishek Banerjee decides, that is communicated to MPs through Derek O'Brien. Clear? Every political party has a whip. Yes. Now somebody was asking, sir, how many sessions of Indian Parliament do we have? Constitution says the Parliament must meet as often as possible. But in such a manner that the gap between the last day of the previous session and the first day of the next session should not be more than 6 months. Floor manager means Lok Sabha is a floor, the floor of the house. That is why you may have witnessed, you may have listened, or you may have been party to that. We will discuss this on the floor of the house. This bill should be tabled on the floor of the house. The budget is tabled on the floor of the house. That means inside the parliament. Who manages the flock of the party together? That is the floor manager, who manages all the MPs on the floor. That person is the whip. What about the sessions of the parliament? Constitution does not talk about budget session, monsoon session, winter session. No. These are mentioned in the rules. Because Constitution only says that the parliament must meet as often as possible, but in such a manner that if one session was conducted today and this session lasts for 10 days, the last day of the session and the first day of the next session, the time gap between the two should not be more than 6 months, which means parliament must meet at least 2 times in a single year. But we normally meet thrice. First in the budget session, then in the monsoon session, then in the winter session. And sometimes there can be a special session. That means apart from monsoon session, budget session, winter session, there may be a special session. And in this special session, for example, last time, what did we discuss in the special session of the recent parliament? Very good. Women's Reservation Bill. Which means Constitution is clear that the parliament can meet as often as possible. If we want parliament to meet 365 days in a year, 100% fine, we don't have an issue. But the parliament must meet at least 2 times in a year, so that the time gap between the last day of the previous session and the first day of the next session should not be more than 6 months. What if it is more than 6 months? The government will be gone. Why? Whose job is to summon the parliament? President. But president cannot act on his own. President is a poor rubber stamp. President summons the parliament on the advice of government. On the advice of the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. And we have discussed previously that it is basically done by the Cabinet Committee of Parliamentary Affairs. So basically, President summons the session of the Parliament. And what is the session? For example, 2024 live online classroom program will have 3 sessions: morning session, evening session, and the weekend session. But in the polity session in the morning, we may have adjournments as well. We may have prorogation as well. And the session may also, the classroom may also be dissolved. That means once your syllabus is over in 2024, gone, dissolved. Then we will have a next batch for 2025 exams. Clear? And I will explain how. Who has the power to summon parliament? President. On the advice of the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers. Basically, decision is communicated to the President by Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs. But the Parliament must meet as soon as possible, as much as possible, but in such a manner that the time gap is not more than 6 months. What if it is? Which means the president is not calling the session, which basically means prime minister and his council of ministers, they are not calling the session, which means they don't want to come to the parliament, which means they have to hide something, which means they want to hide something. And what is it that they want to hide? Maybe they don't have the majority in Lok Sabha. Because they don't have majority in Lok Sabha, because you have to prove majority only in Lok Sabha. You don't have majority in Lok Sabha, you are not calling the session of Lok Sabha, which basically means you will not continue to remain in power. You are gone. You'll have to resign. Manipur. There is a crisis in Manipur between two sections of the society, the Cookies and the Métis. Now, in this violence, it was not possible to organize the session of the Legislative Assembly. But Constitution is clear. Even the state legislature, just like Parliament, will have to meet as much as possible, as often as possible, but in such a manner that the time gap between the last day of the previous session and the first day of the next session should not be more than 6 months. The government of Manipur realized, Mr. Biren Singh realized, what do I do? If I do not call the session of Legislative Assembly, I'm gone, I have to resign. He advised the governor, please call the session of Legislative Assembly only for 1 day. Only for 1 day. And there were lots of MLAs who boycotted as well. But it was called only for 1 day to satisfy this constitutional requirement, which is that you have to meet at least 2 times in a year. If you don't, you will have to resign. But normally we meet 3 times in a year. Budget session, monsoon session, winter session. But sometimes there can be a special session. Who will decide this? Government. And government was tight-lipped. The government only advised the president that please call the session, special session of the parliament. Special because it is other than monsoon session, budget session, winter session. But what is going to be the agenda? Nobody knew. And then there were a lot of speculation. Is it going to be one nation, one election? Is it going to be uniform civil code? Is it going to be changing the name of this country from India to Bharat? What is it going to be? Is Prime Minister going to resign and call for early election because he fears that he may lose in 2024? Lots of speculations. And ultimately, it was decided a day before that the reason why we are organizing or holding this special session is we want to provide reservation to women in legislative assemblies and the Lok Sabha. Clear? And normally we have 3 sessions, but within the sessions, there may be something known as adjournment. What is adjournment? Adjournment is a brief interval in an ongoing session. Who has the power to adjourn the House? Power lies with the presiding officer. Who is the presiding officer? Presiding officer can be the Speaker of Lok Sabha, Chairperson of Rajya Sabha, Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha, Deputy Chairperson of Rajya Sabha, a member of the panel of the chairpersons, a member of the panel of the vice chairperson, because adjournment can happen anywhere, in either of the 2 houses, in Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. What is this adjournment? It's a brief interval in an ongoing session. What does that mean? We have one session, which is Polity morning session in 25 classes. On the first day, we discussed introduction to polity. We discussed separation of powers, unitary and federal constitution, doctrine of checks and balances. We discussed constitutionalism. Then what did I say? If I did not say it then, I will say it now. I say this session is adjourned. We will meet tomorrow, 6 o'clock in the morning. Today also at 9:30, I would also say, let's meet tomorrow, 6 o'clock in the morning. Which means, what am I doing? I'm adjourning this house. I'm adjourning this class so that we will meet the next time, the next day. Similarly, if the session, for example, is called between October 10 to November 9, that means the duration of the session is between October 10 to November 9. For example, on October 10, when I'm meeting, nothing can happen without my permission because I'm the presiding officer. And once the time comes, let's say 9 o'clock in the evening, I would say the house is adjourned. We will meet tomorrow 10 o'clock in the morning. That means what is this adjournment? It's a brief interval in an ongoing session. Or sometimes tomorrow when we will meet in Lok Sabha, there is a ruckus in the Lok Sabha. There is pandemonium in Lok Sabha. Members are throwing chairs at each other, microphone at each other. They are tearing the copies of the bills. In this indiscipline, in this environment of uncertainty, I can't organize the session. Now I'm requesting the members, please sit down. Please don't shout. Please listen to me. We have business to run. We have important bills to discuss. No, this shouting is not allowed. No, please sit down. They're not listening. What do I say? The house is adjourned. We will meet 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So that this 2-hour break, if I give them, maybe they will come back to their senses, if at all. Once the house is convened again, 12 o'clock, please sit. Please listen to me. No, you can't shout. No, you can't accuse me of being partisan. Members of the government, you also sit down. Mr. Rahul Gandhi, please tell your members to listen to me. Nothing is happening. There is still ruckus. I say the house is adjourned. We will meet now tomorrow, 10 o'clock in the morning. That means I specify the date and time. That means I'm adjourning the house, but while specifying the date and time when we want to be convened again. Which is, if the session is from October 10 to November 9, all these days, once the time comes, once the end time comes, I say the house is adjourned. We are done for the day. The house is adjourned. We will meet tomorrow, 10 o'clock in the morning. If there is ruckus, the house is adjourned. We will meet in the afternoon. If the house is adjourned again, I say there is ruckus. The house is adjourned. We will now meet tomorrow. So I'm adjourning the house. I'm giving a brief interval in an ongoing session. Session still continues. It's still a budget session, or still a monsoon session, or still a winter session, but there is a brief interval in an ongoing session. That's what we call adjournment. But one type of adjournment is adjournment while specifying date and time when we are going to meet again. And then there is something known as adjournment sine die. Without specifying the date and time. For example, on November 9, careful, on November 9, evening comes. I have to now adjourn the house. But can I say the house is adjourned and we will meet on November 10, 10 o'clock in the morning? No, I can't. Why? Because the session is only till November 9. If the session ends on November 9, how can I say that we will meet tomorrow 10 o'clock in the morning? But I don't also know when we are going to meet again. Because whose job is that? That's the job of the president. Who can summon the parliament again? President on the advice of Council of Ministers. I am not involved there. So I don't know when we are going to meet again. And I can't say the house is adjourned, we will meet tomorrow 10 o'clock in the morning. Or we will meet January 1, 2024. Because I don't know whether we are going to meet then or not. And even that is not my power. I can't do something which is beyond my power. I say the house is adjourned sine die without specifying the date and time when we are going to meet again. And when I say the house is adjourned sine die, it gives opportunity to the president. What's now the opportunity to the president? That you can prorogue the session. What is prorogation of the session? It basically means you terminate the session. This session, which started on October 10, ends on November 9. The session is terminated. The session is over. Now, when we are going to meet again, President will have to take the advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister, and I will again then summon the Parliament. So what is adjournment? Adjournment is a brief interval in an ongoing session. But listen to me carefully. We are discussing Union Parliament today, and we are discussing these sessions of the Parliament. Then we will discuss the privileges that are available to the members of the Parliament. Then we have to discuss what are these bills, what is an ordinary bill, what is a money bill, what is a financial bill, how the budget is passed. What if we are not able to complete it? Does that mean we will never, and I will never teach these topics and concepts to you? No, I will teach them tomorrow. So what will happen to the business of the House when the House is adjourned? And what is this business? Business may be there are bills, there are questions, there are motions, there are resolutions. There may be a bill pending in the Parliament. There may be a question which has been asked by the member to a minister. There may be a motion, there may be a resolution, and we will discuss later what is the difference between motion and a resolution. But long story short, this is the business of the House. What will happen to this business when the House is adjourned? Nothing. They survive. Which means there was a question asked today. We could not take up this question because the House got adjourned. We will take this question tomorrow. There is a bill which is pending in the Lok Sabha. The House is adjourned. Nothing will happen to this bill. The bill survives. We will discuss it tomorrow or day after till the session is there. There is a motion calling for action against Mahua Moitra because she has taken bribe, allegedly taken bribe in return, asking questions on Mr. Adani, whatever it is. What will happen to these motions? What will happen to these resolutions? Nothing will happen to them. They survive. What is adjournment? Adjournment is a brief interval in an ongoing session. Session continues, but there is an interval. Who has the power to adjourn the House? Presiding officer. Whoever sits on the chair of the speaker, whether it is the speaker, deputy speaker, or anyone from the panel, whether it is the chairperson of Rajya Sabha, deputy chairperson, or anyone from this panel, this presiding officer has the power to adjourn the House. An adjournment means specifying date and time when we are going to meet again. Or adjournment is sine die, without specifying the date and time when we are going to meet again. And so far as the business is concerned, nothing happens to the bills, nothing happens to the questions, nothing happens to motions and resolutions. They survive. If we will not take them today, we will take them tomorrow, then day after, then day after. But all these businesses survive. That's adjournment. Then we have something known as prorogation. What is prorogation? Termination of the session. Shunya is asking a very good question. After sine die 2, the session should be called under 6 months, sir. Adjournment sine die, does it terminate the session? No. When it doesn't terminate the session, that means the session is ongoing. And this has happened. Same rules we apply at the state level as well. And you would know at the state level, there is a conflict between the chief minister and the governor. Particularly and only when the chief minister is from opposition political party and the governor is appointed by the ruling political party at the center. So there is no conflict between the chief minister of UP and the governor because they are from the ruling party at the center has appointed a governor and the same party is in power at the state. We don't have a problem in Uttarakhand. We don't have a problem in Madhya Pradesh. We had a problem in Madhya Pradesh when Kamal Nath was the chief minister. We had a problem in UP when Akhilesh Yadav was the chief minister. We have a problem in Karnataka. We have a problem in Tamil Nadu. We have a problem in Telangana. Ms. Tamilisai, she's the governor of the Telangana. Mr. KCR is the chief minister of Telangana. They had to call a session. And normally, when the session is called, the first session of a year is addressed by the governor. Just like the first session of the parliament is addressed by the president, which we will discuss. But when the session was called in Telangana recently, at the beginning of this year, they did not ask the governor to address the legislature. There was hue and cry. Why the governor was not asked? They are violating the constitution. See what they are doing. See what KCR is doing. It's a family party. It's a dynastic party. But they gave an argument. They said this is not the new session. Previous session was adjourned sine die. When the previous session was adjourned sine die, that means we don't have to call for a new session. When it is not a new session, so why should the governor address the session? And we have to tell the governor what is going to be the duration of the session. And we have decided that. But when to answer your question, when the house is adjourned sine die, does that mean you still have to call the session of the parliament within 6 months? No, because the session is still ongoing. It has not ended. But what is prorogation? Prorogation is the termination of the session. That means session is gone. Who has the power to prorogue? President. It is the power of the president to summon the parliament. It is the power of the president to terminate the session of the parliament. Have you forgot West Bengal? I can never forget West Bengal. So I always give the example of Didi. And this time I thought I'll give other examples of Bulldozer Mama or Bulldozer Baba. Clear? Now Sabha is saying that this is not Sabha, this is Sabha. My Hindi is not great, I understand, but you got the meaning. That is more than enough. Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha. Okay, Sabha? Okay. Now, who has the power to terminate, to prorogue the sessions of the parliament? That is the power which is given to the president. But when the sessions of the parliament are prorogued, when the sessions are terminated, what will happen to the business? What will happen to bills? What will happen to questions? What will happen to motions? What will happen to resolutions? They lapse. Bills survive. Which means all the questions that you asked in budget session of the parliament, all the motions that you introduced, all the resolutions that you introduced, if we could not take these up, if these questions could not be taken up, if the motions could not be taken up, if the resolutions could not be taken up, they will lapse if the session has been terminated, if the session has been prorogued. But what will happen to the bills? Nothing will happen to the bills. The bills survive. That means if you introduced a bill today in the budget session of the parliament, even if it could not be passed, we will take up in the next session of the parliament, next to next session of the parliament. Bills, nothing will happen to the bills. Bills, once they are introduced, they will survive. But everything else lapses when the session is prorogued, when the parliamentary session is terminated. First is adjournment. Nothing happens to the business. Business survives. Then it is prorogation, which is termination of the session. Everything else lapses except the bills. And then we have the third kind, dissolution. Who can dissolve the parliament? I'm asking a question. Who can dissolve the parliament? Shazia, president. Manisha, president. Balaraju, Prime Minister, President, Speaker, President. Ashutosh is right. Mani Moi is also right. Parliament can not be dissolved. As a whole, as an institution, it cannot be dissolved. Because Parliament includes Rajya Sabha as well. And Rajya Sabha is the permanent house of Indian Parliament, not subject to dissolution. What can be dissolved is Lok Sabha, right? And Lok Sabha can be dissolved by the President on the advice of Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. First is the normal dissolution. What is normal dissolution? The term of Lok Sabha is 5 years. Once the term is over, it should be dissolved because the term is 5 years. That is normal dissolution. Sometimes it is premature dissolution. For example, I told you about Srimati Indira Gandhi. When in 1971, India-Pakistan war took place, which India decidedly won, which led to the emergence of Bangladesh as an independent country. Madam Gandhi wanted to reap the benefits of this war, of this win over Pakistan. What she did, she advised the president that you please dissolve the Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha was dissolved, and ultimately fresh elections were conducted, and Madam Gandhi's Congress won the majority. That means even before the term of 5 years, on the advice of the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, the President may dissolve the Lok Sabha. But this advice, is it binding or not? Binding, yes. Some cases, no. How? Right now, we have the Prime Minister and his government, which enjoys majority in Lok Sabha. Clear? What if this Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, they're advising the President, please dissolve Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha will be dissolved. Because this advice is binding on the President. Why? Because this is the advice coming from a Prime Minister who has the majority in Lok Sabha. It is binding on the President. You have to dissolve. What if, for example, Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers, they lose the majority? How do we know whether they have lost the majority or not? Opposition would introduce a no confidence motion in Lok Sabha. And if this no confidence motion is passed, the government has no other option but to resign. If this no confidence motion is passed by simple majority, the government has no other option but to resign. The Prime Minister has to resign. And now Prime Minister, he was defeated in this no confidence motion. He lost the no confidence motion. This no confidence motion was won by the opposition. Now this defeated Prime Minister, if he advises the President that you please dissolve Lok Sabha so that we don't have a different Prime Minister, a new election should be conducted, because after the dissolution of Lok Sabha, always there is a new election. This advice coming from a Prime Minister who has been defeated in the Lok Sabha may not be accepted by the President. May not be accepted. That means this is not binding. But in some cases, we have seen that even this is accepted by the President, and the Legislative Assembly or Lok Sabha is dissolved. Long story short, there is something known as adjournment. The power to adjourn lies with the presiding officer. There is something known as prorogation, which means the session of the Parliament has now been terminated. Who has the power to summon Parliament? President. Who has the power to terminate the session of the Parliament, prorogue the House? That power is with the President also. on the advice of the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers. But then there is dissolution. When the Lok Sabha is to be dissolved, one is the normal dissolution. The term is 5 years. 5 years are over. Lok Sabha is dissolved. Even before 5 years, it can be dissolved by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers. For example, in 2018, the term of the Telangana Legislative Assembly was till 2019. But Mr. KCR, he sensed something that maybe if elections to Legislative Assembly and Lok Sabha are held at the same time, I may lose. He advised the governor, please dissolve the Legislative Assembly. Legislative Assembly was dissolved, fresh elections were conducted. Because once Legislative Assembly is dissolved, when Lok Sabha is dissolved, that means we don't have members now. We need fresh elections to again create Lok Sabha. But is this advice binding on the president? Yes, if the advice is coming from a prime minister who still controls majority, who still enjoys majority in the lower house of Indian Parliament. But if the advice is coming from the prime minister who has been defeated in the Lok Sabha, it may not be binding on the president. President may still accept that advice, but it is not binding. And what happens to the business? When the Lok Sabha is dissolved, everything lapses. Motions, because at this time, when we have Lok Sabha, maybe there were some questions, there were some motions, there were some resolutions, there were some bills, maybe constitutional amendment bills also. What will happen to all these businesses? Everything lapses, except three kinds of bills. Which are these three kinds of bills which do not lapse upon the dissolution of Lok Sabha? Which are these bills? Number one, bills originating in Rajya Sabha and pending in Rajya Sabha. So Sabha has made me conscious of this word Sabha. I may never be able to pronounce it. Rajya Sabha is the permanent house of Indian Parliament, not subject to dissolution. So if there is a bill which has originated in Rajya Sabha and is pending there, Rajya Sabha is the permanent house of the Indian Parliament, not subject to dissolution, this bill does not lapse. Even if Lok Sabha has been dissolved, this bill survives. Bills awaiting President's assent. A bill has been passed by both houses of the Parliament, sent to the President for signature. Now this bill is waiting for the President's signature. Even if during this time Lok Sabha is dissolved, nothing will happen to this bill. The bill survives. Now you may say, what if, sir, just like President Kalam sent the bill back, what if the President wants to send this bill back for reconsideration? President can. Send the bill back for reconsideration to Rajya Sabha this time. The President has to send the bill back to the Parliament for reconsideration. The President will send the bill back to Rajya Sabha. Third type of bills which do not lapse, bills on which joint session has been notified by the President. There is a bill on which there is a deadlock. One house passes the bill, the other house does not agree with this bill. On this bill, there is a deadlock. And I told you, to resolve this deadlock, the president can call a joint sitting of both the houses of the parliament. Now, on this particular bill X, listen to me carefully. On this particular bill X, there is a deadlock. And now the president has notified that on this particular bill, there will be a joint sitting of both houses of the parliament. This bill will not lapse. This particular bill for which president has notified a joint sitting, this won't lapse. But what if there is a bill Y on which also there is a deadlock between the two houses of the parliament, but the president has not notified a joint sitting? This bill will lapse. Because for this bill, protection is if a joint sitting has been notified. If joint sitting has been notified, this bill survives. If joint sitting has not been notified, even if there is a deadlock on this bill, the bill lapses. These are the only three kinds of bills which do not lapse upon the dissolution of Lok Sabha. Otherwise, all kinds of bills, motions, resolutions, questions, they lapse. Which are these bills? Bills which originate in Rajya Sabha and are pending in Rajya Sabha. They don't lapse. Bills on which we are awaiting president's assent, president's signature. These bills also would not lapse. What if the president wants to send the bill back? The president can send the bill back to Rajya Sabha. And then those bills on which the president has notified joint sitting, those bills also will not lapse upon the dissolution of Lok Sabha. Clear? There is also one kind of motion which does not lapse. The judges of the Supreme Court and High Court can be removed if a motion is passed by both houses of the parliament by special majority. What if a motion has been introduced? Motion is basically a proposal that you move, and we will discuss what sort of proposal this is. That means you have to do something. 50 MPs or 100 MPs, they will have to write to the speaker that we want to remove a judge. That means you're moving something. You're moving a proposal to remove a judge. Once this motion has been accepted, even if Lok Sabha is dissolved, nothing will happen to this motion because this will survive. Once the new Lok Sabha is convened, they will have to look at this motion. That means you don't have to introduce this motion again. It is already there. You just have to pick it up. So apart from these three bills and apart from a motion calling for the removal of the judges of the Supreme Court or High Court, everything else lapses upon the dissolution of Lok Sabha. Any questions? Let me know. Sir, bills originating in Lok Sabha and are not passed in Rajya Sabha, what will happen to this bill? Bills originated in Lok Sabha lapse. Whether these bills are pending in Rajya Sabha or what, they lapse. Sir, Rule 336 says a motion, resolution, or amendment which has not been moved and is pending in House shall not lapse by the reason only of the prorogation of House. I told you that in prorogation, bills do not lapse. Everything else lapses. But Amit Shah in the parliament said bills lapse when Lok Sabha is dissolved. That is with respect to Lok Sabha. Sir, please give some examples of three different types of bills. We will discuss all the bills one by one. What about money bill? That also lapses. A bill originating in Rajya Sabha pending in Lok Sabha lapses. What if bills are passed in Rajya Sabha and not tabled in Lok Sabha? That means the bills originate in Rajya Sabha and are now pending in Rajya Sabha. They won't lapse. So does Deputy Speaker get voting right in Lok Sabha or not? Deputy Speaker, my dear, is the member of Lok Sabha. So he has or she has the voting rights, 100%. Difference between motion and resolution, we will discuss. We will discuss when the time comes. So the last topic of Parliament chapter is difference between motion and resolution. Motion is of three types: substantive motion, subsidiary motion, substitute motion. Resolution is also of three types: government resolution, private resolution, and then statutory resolution. We'll discuss all these later. Sir, before floor test, can Lok Sabha dissolution take place even knowing that ruling party in minority? Please explain, sir. It may or may not happen. Because if the president knows that this particular prime minister does not enjoy the majority, and that is why he is recommending dissolution of Lok Sabha, he may not agree. But if he does, Lok Sabha can be dissolved. But if it is done rightly or wrongly, then the Supreme Court will come into the picture, and Supreme Court may say, no, Lok Sabha survives. Because Supreme Court can do anything in India. What is casting vote? In case of a tie, the presiding officer votes either in favor or against this matter just to resolve a deadlock. That is what we call casting vote. So you're casting your vote just to resolve a dispute. Sir, if Lok Sabha Speaker presides the new session, then why there is pro tem Speaker? When did I say that Lok Sabha Speaker presides over Lok Sabha? Or the Speaker of the old Lok Sabha presides over new Lok Sabha? I never said that. Did I? If this is 15th Lok Sabha, the Speaker of the 15th Lok Sabha will not resign along with other members of Lok Sabha when the term is over. He will resign on the first day of the session of the 16th Lok Sabha. Clear? And now this session will be presided over by pro tem speaker. So that there are two responsibilities for this pro tem speaker: to elect the speaker, to preside over the election of the speaker, and to administer oath to newly elected MPs. Sir, what is quorum? We have to take a decision in the parliament, or we have to pass a particular bill in the parliament. What should be the minimum number of MPs who should be present in the parliament so that we can discuss it, so that we can carry on with the business of the house? That number is quorum, and that is 1/10 of the house. For example, although we don't have a quorum here, even if there is only one student in the class, I have to take the class. But what if, for example, tomorrow we decide that there is a rule, minimum 100 students should be present in the class? Then we will take the class. Otherwise, the class is cancelled. That 100 would become quorum. What is the minimum number of members required in parliament so that we can conduct the business of the parliament? That is quorum. That is 1/10. Can Rajya Sabha hold a special session too, or is it only for Lok Sabha? It is not the special session of Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha. It is the special session of the parliament, which includes Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Balaraju is asking a question. After a day of resolution of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha passes a bill and it continues to went next Lok Sabha or not? Rajya Sabha passed a bill. It has to go to Lok Sabha, but there is no Lok Sabha. So where it will go? It will remain in Rajya Sabha. Otherwise, where will you go? There is no exit. Okay, Stay has said something which may be relevant for others, not for me. Uh, I'll remove the first part. I was not able to wake before 8 a.m. Then I used to watch 8:30 a.m. onwards, but gradually I started waking up early now, and I'm watching classes from 6 a.m. and it is still going with the same energy. Very good. That is a motivation for others. President notifying joint session means President will issue a notification, an order from his secretariat, from his office, that on this particular bill, there will be a joint sitting of the houses. Professor Manoj Jha is an MP holding an office of profit, Delhi University. That is not an office of profit. That is exempted. If there is no Lok Sabha, can a bill be passed alone by Rajya Sabha? No. A bill has to be passed by the parliament, which means by both houses of the parliament plus signed by the president. Cannot happen. Okay. Now, powers, privileges of the parliament and the members thereof. But this is a slightly big topic which will take at least 40 minutes. So we will look at what is an ordinary bill. It's an ordinary bill, an ordinary topic which we will cover in 10 minutes. Then powers, privileges we will discuss tomorrow. Because after 9:30 the house is adjourned, the class is adjourned. We will meet tomorrow 6 o'clock in the morning. Done? That's adjournment. The power is with the presiding officer. A bill is an ordinary bill if this bill is neither a money bill nor a financial bill nor a constitutional amendment bill. Any bill is a proposal. Any bill which is neither a money bill covered under Article 110 nor a financial bill covered under Article 117 nor a constitutional amendment bill under Article 368. Any such bill is an ordinary bill. And this ordinary bill needs to be passed by both houses by simple majority. Clear? Both houses of the parliament by simple majority. But what is the process? This ordinary bill can be introduced in either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. So where can we introduce this bill? Either in Lok Sabha or in Rajya Sabha, either of the two houses. Prior recommendation of president is not required, can be introduced by a private member or a government minister, There is one ordinary bill which requires prior recommendation of the president. Only one ordinary bill. Can you tell me what is that ordinary bill? Very good. Except a bill under Article 3, which talks about states reorganization. That is the only ordinary bill which requires prior recommendation of the president. Otherwise, ordinary bill, and what is an ordinary bill? A bill which is neither a money bill, nor a financial bill, nor a constitutional amendment bill. Such a bill is a money bill. Such a bill is an ordinary bill. This ordinary bill can be introduced in either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, can be introduced by a private member or a minister, does not require prior consent or prior recommendation of the President of India. Now let's assume this ordinary bill is in Lok Sabha. If it is passed by simple majority, then this bill will travel to Rajya Sabha. If in Rajya Sabha also the bill is passed by simple majority, what will happen to this bill? This bill will travel to President. What are the options available with the President? The President can use absolute veto, pocket veto, suspensive veto, any type of veto. That is the discretion then available with the President. Although we say in practice, whatever is communicated to him by the government, that is binding on the President. But if it was a constitutional amendment bill, then President has no discretion. The President will have to give his assent to a constitutional amendment bill. Let's assume now this ordinary bill is introduced in Rajya Sabha, can be introduced by a minister or by a private member. Prior recommendation of the President is not required. If this ordinary bill is passed by Rajya Sabha, it will travel to Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha also passes this bill by simple majority. The matter goes to the President. The President, if he signs, it becomes a law. If he doesn't, then there are some options available with the President. He can use or she can use absolute veto, pocket veto, suspensive veto. But let's assume another scenario. Let's say this bill is introduced in Lok Sabha and then we have Rajya Sabha. What if Lok Sabha passes this bill by simple majority? Rajya Sabha also passes this bill by simple majority. There is no issue. Why? Because both houses have passed the bill. One house has passed the bill, the other house has rejected the bill. Outright rejection. Rejection means on this particular bill we needed simple majority, but we could not obtain simple majority. More than half of the members present and voting did not vote in favor of this bill. That means Rajya Sabha has rejected this bill. What will happen to this bill? On this bill, there is a deadlock. And to resolve this deadlock, there is one option known as the joint sitting of the two houses. Seema is asking, what do you mean by private member? A member of a house who is not a minister is a private member. So this bill can be introduced by a minister or by a non-minister. A non-minister is known as a private member. What if Lok Sabha passes this bill, but Rajya Sabha amends this bill? Rajya Sabha makes some changes to this bill. This bill will go back to Lok Sabha. If Lok Sabha accepts these changes, say, yes, very good changes, thank you so much, there is no problem. Because Lok Sabha has accepted the changes made by Rajya Sabha, no problem, the bill is passed. What if Lok Sabha rejects these amendments, does not agree with these amendments, saying, no, we don't agree with these amendments? There is a deadlock. And to resolve this deadlock, there can be the joint sitting of the two houses. So when one house passes a bill, what are the options available with the other house? And in this case, both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, they have equal powers. It's not that Rajya Sabha is inferior to Lok Sabha. Assume that Rajya Sabha passes a bill, ordinary bill by simple majority. Matter goes to the Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha also passes the bill by simple majority. No problem whatsoever, the bill is passed. Rajya Sabha passes a bill by simple majority. Lok Sabha rejects it. There is a deadlock. Rajya Sabha passes a bill. Lok Sabha amends it. These amendments are then sent to Rajya Sabha. Do you agree with these amendments? If Rajya Sabha says, okay, we accept, then this bill is passed because both houses agree. But what if this house rejects these amendments? There is a deadlock. What if Lok Sabha passes a bill and the Rajya Sabha does not act on the bill for 6 months? When the other house does not act on this bill for 6 months, there is a deadlock. And to resolve this deadlock, there is a joint sitting of the two houses. So what is an ordinary bill? A bill, if it is neither a constitutional amendment bill, nor a money bill, nor a financial bill. Constitutional amendment bill we have discussed previously. Money bill and financial bill we will discuss tomorrow. So a bill which is neither a money bill, nor a financial bill, nor a constitutional amendment bill, such a bill is an ordinary bill. And an ordinary bill can be introduced in either of the two houses. In Lok Sabha first, then Rajya Sabha, or Rajya Sabha first, then in Lok Sabha. A bill which is an ordinary bill can be introduced in either of the two houses of the parliament, can be introduced by a private member or a minister. Private member is a member of the parliament who is not a minister. Private member can be introduced without the prior recommendation of the President of India, except a bill under Article 3. And this bill should be passed by simple majority by both houses of the parliament. What if one house passes the bill, the other house rejects a bill? There is a deadlock. One house passes a bill, the other house makes amendments to this bill, and these amendments are not acceptable to the originating house. There is a deadlock. What if one house passes a bill and the other house does not act on this bill for 6 months? There is a deadlock. And to resolve this deadlock, there may be. So it's not necessary that for every bill on which there is a deadlock, the president will have to necessarily call the joint sitting of the two houses. No. If there is a deadlock on a particular bill, then the president may, on the advice of the prime minister and his council of ministers, notify a joint sitting of the two houses, and then this bill will be presented to this joint sitting of the two houses. And then this joint sitting will decide whether this bill is passed or not. And whether this bill is passed or not, we will discuss that tomorrow. Is it necessary to read additional reading material? If you have understood the class, download the annotated PPTs, plus revise from Lakshmikant. That is more than enough. Sir, Speaker is the part of the political party in India, unlike Britain Parliament. How Speaker can be partial in nature? I think you're asking how Speaker can be impartial, because he is partial, because he belongs to a political party. And that is why I told you we will discuss in 10th schedule. Once a speaker, always a speaker. Is that a reform that we can introduce in India? That we will discuss there. Do we have to read NCRTs from class 6 for polity? No need. Can a bill under Article 3 be introduced by a private member? No, it is a government bill, because you need prior recommendation of the president, and president will give prior recommendation to the government. Is it binding on president to give assent to ordinary bill? No. Okay. So Neha is asking, so until and unless the bill is introduced in Lok Sabha, it will be considered pending in Rajya Sabha. Yes. If introduced in Rajya Sabha and not acted for 6 months in Lok Sabha, then you're saying if the bill is introduced in Rajya Sabha, which means Rajya Sabha has passed it, then it is sent to Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha does not act on this bill for 7 months. There is a deadlock. There have been only 3 instances of joint sitting. Yes, you're right. 3 instances. Is there any example of ordinary bill? Well, all these bills, for example, Prevention of Money Laundering Act bill, uh, foreign contribution, FCRA, all these are ordinary bills. Sir, if a bill doesn't get majority in joint session, then what will happen? The bill will definitely get a majority in joint sitting, because in joint sitting, you have members of both Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. All you need a simple majority, more than half of the members present and voting. So whatever Lok Sabha decides, that will be the will. What if tie in joint sitting? Then the presiding officer will have a casting vote to decide whether to vote in favor or against. Dhanraj sir, since Monday you have not taken my questions. And since Monday, this is the second class we have. So when you say since Monday, you give a sense that for eternity I have not answered any of your questions. Okay, what's your question? Oh, lost. Yes. Who gives oath to speaker, president or CJ? President. Appointing pro tem speaker is the discretion of the president. Yes. Why the flag is being removed from courts and government authorities after 6 p.m. and restored at 6 a.m.? It's to give dignity to this flag. It's according to the Prevention of Insult to National Honor Act. Athar, maybe I don't use your name and call out your name, but I think whenever I see your question, I answer it. And I've answered at least 5 of your questions. Just that I don't call out your name. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for staying with me. We'll meet tomorrow. The class is adjourned. We will meet tomorrow, 6 o'clock in the morning. Till then, have a great time. And don't forget to revise whatever we have discussed, because that would be important for tomorrow's class. And also don't forget to rate this class. Right? See you tomorrow. Bye bye. Take care.